Your name is Alice. You are 12 years old and you have been watching the sky since February. Not because you want to, and not because the clouds are pretty, though sometimes when the light breaks through at sunset, they turn the color of bruised plums. You watch because your father watches. He has been gazing at the sky for weeks because the rain will not stop. It began in the second week of February, if you remember correctly. A soft rain at first, the kind that settles the dust and makes the thatch smell sweet. Your mother said it was a blessing. The winter had been dry, and the fields needed the moisture before the spring plowing. You stood in the doorway of your cottage, watching the drops fall into the puddle by the threshold, and you believed her. That was 43 days ago. Now the puddle is a pond. The pond has become a marsh that stretches from your doorstep to the edge of the wood, and the path to the village is a river of mud that sucks at your feet with every step. And the rain has not stopped. It falls in the morning when you wake, drumming on the thatch with a sound that has become so familiar you no longer hear it. It falls in the afternoon when you help your mother stir the pottage, the drops finding their way through the smoke hole to hiss in the fire. And it falls at night when you lie awake on your straw pallet, listening to your little brother William breathe, listening to the soft, constant whisper of water on the roof, wondering if the sky has forgotten how to be anything else. You live in the village of Thornwood, a scatter of 20-odd cottages tucked into a bend of the River Tove in the English Midlands. It is not a large place, not the kind of place that appears on any map that matters, but it is your place. You know every path, every gate, every tree that bears fruit in a good year. You know which fields belong to which family, where the best mushrooms grow in autumn, which hollow in the stream bank holds crayfish when the water is low. But the water is not low. The stream has become a brown torrent, eating away at its banks, swallowing the footbridge that your grandfather helped build 30 years ago. The river has crept out of its bed, turning the common meadow into a shallow lake. The willows that line the bank stand in water up to their lowest branches, their reflections wavering in the grey surface like things seen through tears. This morning your father woke you before dawn. "Come," he said. "We need to see the fields." You dressed in the dark, pulling your wool tunic over your shift, lacing your leather shoes that are already cracked and leaking from weeks of wet. William stirred on his pallet, a small lump under the one blanket you all share, and you tucked the edge back around his shoulders without waking him. Your mother was already at the hearth, feeding the fire with the last of the dry wood, her face grey in the weak light. She did not ask where you were going. She already knew. Outside, the world was the color of old iron. The sky was low and heavy. The clouds pressed flat against the hills, as if something vast was lying on top of them. The rain was light for once, a fine mist that clung to your face and hair, beading on the wool of your father's hood. He walked ahead of you, his shoulders hunched against the damp, his feet sinking into the mud with each step. You followed in his footprints, lifting your skirts clear of the sludge, your breath misting in the cold air. The fields lie to the east of the village, 100 acres of open strips that have been ploughed and planted for longer than anyone can remember. Your family holds 3 strips on the south slope, where the soil is thin, but the sun reaches first. You have walked these strips since you were old enough to walk. You know the feel of the earth under your bare feet in summer, the smell of the turned soil in autumn, the sound of the wind moving through the standing grain. You know that in a good year, the rye here grows taller than your father's waist, thick and green, then gold, then heavy with seed. This morning, you do not recognize the field. The furrows your father ploughed in January are still visible, but only as shallow depressions in a landscape of mud. Water stands in every hollow, a skin of grey that reflects the low sky. And in the furrows, in the places where the seed was sown 6 weeks ago, there is nothing. You kneel at the edge of your father's strip, the mud soaking through your skirt, and you dig your fingers into the soil. It is cold, heavy, sodden. You push deeper, past the surface, into the layer where the seed should be. Your fingers find something soft, and you pull it out. The rye grain is swollen to twice its normal size, a pale thing like a drowned grub. You squeeze it gently, and it collapses between your fingers into a grey paste that smells of rot. You look up at your father. He is standing at the edge of the field, looking out across the strips that should be green with new growth by now. His face is very still, the way it was when your grandmother died last winter, when the priest said the words, and your mother closed her eyes and your father just stood there looking at nothing. He does not say anything. He does not need to. You know what this means. You have heard the stories, the ones the old women tell when the nights grow long. There was a famine when your grandmother was a girl, they say. The rain came and the rain stayed, and the grain came and the rain stayed, and the grain rotted in the ground. People ate the bark of trees and the roots of ferns. They boiled leather and ground bones into flour. Some of them died. Some of them did things that were not spoken of after. You have always thought of these stories as something from another world, as distant and unreal as the tales of King Arthur or the Crusades. They were things that happened to other people, in other times, in a world that no longer existed. But standing in the cold rain, watching your father stare at the drowned fields, you understand that the other world is here, now, pressing against the door of your cottage, like the water pressing against the banks of the river. Your father turns away from the field without speaking. He walks back toward the village, his footsteps slow, his head bowed against the rain. You follow him because there is nothing else to do. The village is stirring when you return. Smoke rises from a few chimneys, grey against the grey sky, but there is no smell of baking bread. There is no smell of anything much. The cottages huddle together like cattle in a storm, their thatch dark with moisture, their walls streaked with damp. In the centre of the village, where the common oven stands, a group of men have gathered. You recognize most of them. John the miller, whose mill wheel has been silent for 3 weeks, because the stream is too high to work. Robert the reeve, who keeps the accounts for the Lord. Father Martin, whose church has been cold and empty since the Campbells ran out last month. They are talking in low voices, their breath misting, their hands moving in gestures you cannot quite follow. Your father joins them. You stand apart, your back against the stone wall of the church, your shoes squelching with every shift of weight. You can hear fragments of the conversation, words that drift on the damp air like smoke. The seed corn is gone. Every field between here and Northampton. The Lord's bailiff came yesterday. He says the tithe must be paid, full measure, by Easter. There's nothing to pay with. We have no grain, no cattle, nothing. I've heard people in the north are eating horses, dogs even. Your stomach clenches at the word. You think of the family pig, the one you have fed every morning since it was a piglet, the one your father was saving for Michaelmas. You think of the chickens, the ones that have stopped laying because there is no grain to give them. You think of the small store of rye in your father's chest, the rye that was meant to last until the harvest, the rye that your mother has been measuring out by the handful for weeks. The men's voices rise and fall, and then there is a silence. Your father is walking away from the group, his face still that same grey stillness. He passes you without a word, and you fall into step beside him. At the cottage, your mother is waiting. She has made bread, not the white bread of feast days, not even the dark rye bread of ordinary days, but something smaller and browner, made from the last of the wheat flour mixed with ground acorns and dried pea pods. It sits on the wooden board in the centre of the table, a small hard loaf that would have fed the 4 of you once. Now it is meant to last 2 days. Your father sits down at the table. William climbs onto his lap, too young to understand why his father's arms are so tight around him. Your mother places the bread in front of your father, and he breaks it into 4 pieces with hands that are shaking slightly. You eat your piece slowly, letting it soften on your tongue before you chew. It tastes of earth and nuts and something else, something bitter, that you cannot name. Your mother sips water from a wooden cup and does not look at the empty chest in the corner of the room where the flour used to be. After the meal, your father goes out again. You watch him walk toward the church, where the men are still gathered, and you know he is going to talk about what comes next, about the spring planting that cannot happen, about the seed that will not grow, about the summer that is coming, the summer without grain, the autumn without harvest, the winter that will follow. You stay inside with your mother. She is sorting through the few things the family still has, a brass pot that was her mother's, a length of woolen cloth that was meant to be a tunic for your father, a small chest of dried herbs that she uses for medicines. She holds each item in her hands, feeling its weight, its value, its usefulness. You know she is trying to decide what can be sold, what can be traded, what can be kept. William is playing on the floor with a wooden horse your father carved for him last Christmas. He makes small sounds as he moves the horse across the packed earth, a journey that goes nowhere, a story that has no ending. Outside, the rain continues to fall. You sit by the window, looking out at the grey light, at the puddle that has become a pond, at the sky that shows no sign of changing. Your father's words come back to you, the ones he said this morning as you walked home from the fields. "I've never seen anything like it," he said. "Not in all my years." He is 44 years old. He has lived through dry summers and wet ones, through years of plenty and years of want. He has never seen anything like this. You are 12. You have not seen anything at all. But you are seeing it now. The rain falls on the fields where the seed is rotting, on the village where the bread is growing scarce, on the river that is rising, on the woods where the animals are thin and weary, on the road that leads to places you have never been and may never go. It falls, and it falls, and it falls, and you watch it, and you wait. Your mother calls you to help with the evening meal, a thin pottage of nettles and wild onions, with a handful of barley that she has been hoarding for a week. You eat it standing by the hearth, the steam rising into the smoke-filled air, the taste of the nettles sharp on your tongue. William eats his portion slowly, dipping his bread into the broth, his eyes heavy with the approach of sleep. Your father comes back as the light is fading. He does not speak, but he puts his hand on your mother's shoulder, and something passes between them that you cannot name. He sits by the fire, and you bring him the bowl of pottage that your mother has saved for him, and he eats it without seeming to taste it. Later, when William is asleep on his pallet, when your mother has banked the fire and your father has checked the door for the third time, you lie down in the darkness and listen. The rain is softer now, a whisper rather than a drumming, but it is still there. It has become the background of your life, the constant against which everything else is measured. You try to remember what silence sounds like, and you cannot. You think of the fields, of the swollen grain between your fingers, of the grey paste that smelled of decay. You think of your father's face, that terrible stillness. You think of the stories your grandmother told, the ones you thought were fairy tales, and you wonder, as the darkness closes around you, and the rain continues its endless falling, whether you will ever live to tell your own grandchildren a story like that, whether there will even be grandchildren to hear it, whether there will be any stories left to tell. Your mother turns on her pallet, and her hand reaches out to touch your hair in the darkness. "Sleep, child," she says, her voice soft, her fingers light on your forehead. "There is nothing to be done tonight." You close your eyes. The rain falls. The night is long, and somewhere in the darkness the seeds rot in the ground, and the river rises, and the world your father knew is already changing into something else. But for now there is warmth beside you, your mother's hand, the slow rhythm of William's breathing, the small sigh he makes when he turns over, and the solid presence of your father on the other side of the hearth. You hold on to these things as you drift towards sleep, these small anchors in a world that is suddenly uncertain. The rain will still be there when you wake. The fields will still be drowned. The hunger that is beginning to gnaw at the edges of your awareness will still be waiting. But for now, there is sleep, there is the darkness, and there is the quiet whisper of water on the thatch, a sound that has become a lullaby. You let it carry you down, into the deep, into the night, into the long, strange journey that has only just begun. May comes to Thornwood like a stranger who does not know he is unwelcome. The rain eases finally, after 73 days. You wake one morning to a silence that is so sudden, so complete, that you lie on your pallet for a long moment, holding your breath, waiting for the familiar drumming to resume. It does not. The sky is still grey, the clouds still heavy, but the water has stopped falling. Your mother stands in the doorway, looking out at a world that seems, for the first time in months, to be holding still. "It might be over," she says, and her voice is cautious, as if she is afraid of jinxing the words. Your father does not answer. He has been up since before dawn, walking the fields, checking the strips, where the rye should have been knee-high by now. When he comes back, his boots are caked with mud, his face the colour of old ash. He sits at the table without taking them off, and your mother has to kneel and pull them from his feet herself. "The wheat is gone," he says quietly. "The barley, too. the oats might yet come if the sun shows itself. He pauses, and you see his hands clench on the table. But the sun has not shown itself in 2 months. Your mother says nothing. She places a bowl of thin porridge in front of him, oats, the last of the winter store, cooked in water with a pinch of salt. He looks at it, then pushes it toward you. "Eat," he says. "You're growing." "I ate already, you lie." William, who is too young to lie, stares at the bowl with hungry eyes, and your father breaks the porridge into 3 parts, 1 for each of you, and takes nothing for himself. The relief of the dry days lasts exactly 1 week. In that week, the sun appears briefly, a pale disk behind the clouds, and the mud begins to firm. Your father goes to the fields every day, turning the soil with a hand plow, hoping that the late spring warmth might coax something from the ground. Your mother takes you into the woods to dig for roots, wild carrots, burdock, the last of last year's nuts hidden by squirrels and forgotten. William carries a sack that is almost as big as he is, and you fill it with nettles and dandelion leaves, anything green that can be boiled into something resembling food. On the 6th day, you find a patch of mushrooms near the old oak tree. Your mother examines each one carefully, turning them over, smelling them, breaking the stems. She sets aside a dozen, and you know that tonight you will have something more than nettle broth. William's eyes light up when he sees them, and for a moment the world seems almost ordinary again. Then the priest comes. Father Martin is a thin man with a face like a winter apple, wrinkled and sour. He has been the priest of Thornwood for 15 years, since before you were born. He baptized you, married your parents, buried your grandmother. He knows every family in the village, knows their secrets and their debts, and the names of their children. He is not a bad man, your mother says, but he is a man of the church, and the church has its needs. The tithe is due at Easter. Easter came and went in March, the height of the rains, and Father Martin had said nothing. Now, with the skies clearing, he has come to collect. Your father sees him coming down the path and goes to meet him at the gate. You watch from the window, your mother's hand on your shoulder, as the 2 men speak. You cannot hear the words, but you can see your father's shoulders rise and fall, see the way he looks at the ground, see the priest's mouth moving in the patient, unyielding way of a man who knows he is on the side of God. When your father comes back inside, his face is the same grey stillness you have come to dread. He wants 1/10, your father says, 1/10 of everything we have. Your mother's hand tightens on your shoulder. "Everything we have," she repeats. "We have nothing. The law is the law," your father says, and his voice cracks on the words. "The church must be fed. The Lord must be paid. The tithe is God's due, and we cannot." He stops. He looks around the cottage, at the empty chests, the thin blankets, the fire that has been kept low for weeks. He looks at William, who is sitting on the floor with his wooden horse, too young to understand what is happening. He looks at you. "We have the pig," he says finally. Your mother makes a sound that is not quite a word, something between a gasp and a cry. The pig is not just food. The pig is next year's piglets, the breeding stock that would have given you something to trade at the Michaelmas fair. The pig is the hope that if the fields fail, if the grain rots, there will be something else, something that grows on acorns and kitchen scraps, something that can be sold or eaten or turned into next year's salvation. They will not take the pig, your mother says. The pig is not tithe. The pig is not tithe. The tithe is grain. It is flour. It is the first fruits of the harvest. The pig is all we have, your father says. And Father Martin has made it clear. If we cannot pay in grain, we will pay in livestock. If we cannot pay in livestock, if we cannot pay in livestock, if we cannot pay in livestock, we will pay in labor. If we cannot pay in labor, he does not finish the sentence. He does not need to. You know what happened to pay, huh? You have seen them, the ones who left Thornwood in the night, their cottages empty, their fields taken by the Lord, their names spoken in whispers. You have heard the stories of debtors' prison, of families broken apart, of children sold into service to pay what their parents owed. These were stories too, once, stories like the famine stories, things that happened to other people in other times. Your mother goes to the corner where the chest of herbs sits, the one thing of values that remains. She opens it, and you see her hands trembling as she touches the dried lavender, the bundles of yarrow, the small pots of salve she makes from beeswax and sheep fat. These are not just medicines. These are her mother's knowledge, her grandmother's knowledge, a line of women who knew how to ease pain and cure fever and bring children into the world. "Take this," she says to your father, holding out the chest. "Take this to Father Martin. Tell him it is worth more than a pig. Tell him—" Your father takes the chest from her hands. His face is not still now. It is something you have never seen before, something that frightens you more than the rain, more than the drowned fields, more than the stories of famine. It is the face of a man who is doing something he cannot bear to do because there is no other choice. "I will see what can be done," he says. And he goes out into the grey afternoon, the chest under his arm, and you watch him walk toward the church, and you wait. The waiting is the worst part. Your mother cannot sit still. She moves around the cottage, picking things up and putting them down, wiping surfaces that are already clean, straightening the blankets on the pallets. William, sensing the tension, begins to whine, and you take him outside to look for snails in the garden. Anything to keep him quiet, to keep yourself from thinking. The garden is a muddy patch behind the cottage where your mother grows herbs and vegetables in a good year. There is nothing here now but mud and a few straggling onion tops that somehow survived the flood. You show William the snails that cling to the stone wall, their shells iridescent in the weak light, and he forgets to cry, poking them with a stick, laughing when they retreat into their armor. You look at the church, at the path that leads to it, and you wait. It is almost dark when your father comes back. He comes alone. The chest is gone. He sits at the table, and your mother brings him water, and he drinks it in long swallows, his throat moving, his eyes fixed on something you cannot see. "The chest pays the tithe for Easter," he says. "Father Martin will speak to the Lord's bailiff about the rent." "The rent," your mother says. "We have no grain for the rent. The bailiff comes next week. He will want something. He will take something." Your father puts his head in his hands, and for a long moment no one speaks. You can hear William outside, still laughing at the snails, the sound small and bright in the grey evening. You can hear the chickens scratching in the yard, the ones that have stopped laying, the ones that will be next if the bailiff decides to take them. "We are not the only ones," your mother says finally. "The whole village is in the same straits. The bailiff cannot take what no one has. He can take what we have," your father says. "He can take the pig, the chickens, the last of the flour. He can take the pot my mother left us, the one we were saving for." He stops. There is nothing left to save for. Your mother sits down across from him, and you see her take his hands in hers. Her face is not grey now. It is set, determined. The face of a woman who has buried children and survived winters and watched the rain fall for 73 days without breaking. "Then we will give him what we have," she says, "and we will plant what we can, and we will pray for the sun. And if the sun does not come, we will find other things to eat. We are not the first to face this, and we will not be the last." Your father looks up at her, and something shifts in his face. Something that is not quite hope, but is not despair either. It is the look of a man who has been reminded that he is not alone. "Alice," your mother says, turning to you, "call your brother. It is time for supper." You go out into the garden and find William still poking at the snails, his face smudged with mud, his wooden horse tucked under his arm. The light is fading now, the clouds turning a soft grey that could be the beginning of night or the beginning of clearer skies. It is hard to tell the difference anymore. "Come," you say, taking his hand. "Time to eat." "What are we eating?" he hand. "Time to eat. What are we eating?" he asks. You think of the nettles, the dandelion greens, the mushrooms that your mother found. It is not much. It is never much anymore. But it is something. "Supper," you say. "We're eating supper." He follows you inside, and your mother is stirring the pot, and your father is putting more wood on the fire. And for a moment the cottage is warm and bright, and almost the way it was before. The pottage is thin, the mushrooms are small, the bread is a memory. But you eat it together, and William asks for more, and your mother gives him her own portion, And no one says anything about the chest that is gone, or the tithe that has been paid, or the bailiff who is coming. Later, when the fire has burned down to embers, you lie on your pallet and listen to the silence. There is no rain tonight. There is only the creak of the cottage settling, the soft breathing of your family, the distant bark of a dog somewhere in the village. It is a quiet that feels almost like peace, almost like almost like peace, almost like forgetting. But you do not forget. You lie in the darkness and you think of the chest, of your grandmother's herbs, of the knowledge that passed from her to your mother and from your mother to you. You think of the pig, still snuffling in its sty, not knowing that it is wanted. You think of the bailiff who will come next week, and the lord who sits in his great hall somewhere to the south, and the priest who took your mother's inheritance and called it God's due. And you think of the words your mother said, the words that are still hanging in the air like smoke. We are not the first to face this, and we will not be the last. You close your eyes. Outside, the sky is clearing for the first time in months, and somewhere above the clouds there are stars. You cannot see them, but you know they are there, and in the darkness before sleep takes you, you let yourself imagine that they are watching over you, these distant lights, these ancient fires, these small witnesses to everything that has been lost and everything that might yet be saved. You let yourself imagine that the rain is finally over, and you sleep. July arrives in Thornwood like a fever. The rain has stopped, true, but the sun that follows is not the gentle warmth your father prayed for. It comes too late and too fierce, baking the mud into cracked clay, turning the streams that overflowed their banks into stagnant ribbons of green water. The fields your father ploughed again in May, hoping to coax something from the soil, have sprouted. But what grows is not rye or wheat or barley. It is weeds, fat hen, shepherd's purse, the coarse grass that cattle will not eat. The grain that survived the drowning sends up thin, pale shoots that never thicken, never head, never turn gold. They stand in the fields like rows of sick children, greenish yellow, stunted, waiting for a harvest that will never come. Your father walks the strips every morning. He has stopped asking you to come with him. You watch him from the doorway sometimes, a small figure against the vast sky, bending to touch the plants, straightening, bending again. He is looking for something, you think, some sign that the earth has not abandoned them, some promise that the work of his hands will not be for nothing. He does not find it. By the middle of July, the village begins to change. The hunger that was a whisper in April, a murmur in May, is now a constant presence, a weight that sits on every chest, a shadow that follows every footstep. The children are the first to show it. Their faces, always round and pink in the old days, have grown sharp. Their eyes seem larger in their sockets, their arms thinner, their ribs visible beneath their tunics. William has stopped running. He walks now, slowly, his wooden horse dragging in the dust behind him. His questions fewer, his laughter gone. You see it in the adults too, though they try to hide it. The men move more slowly in the fields. The women sit longer over the cooking pots, stretching the thin broth with nettles and dock leaves, and anything else that can be gathered from the edges of the woods. The old stories say that in famines past, people ate the bark of trees, but no one in Thornwood has reached that point yet. Not quite. The grain chest in your cottage has been empty for a month. The pig was taken by the Lord's bailiff in June, along with 2 of the chickens and the brass pot that was your grandmother's. Your father had argued, had offered to work off the debt, had even gone to the church to beg Father Martin to intercede. The bailiff had listened with the patient, empty face of a man who has heard such pleas before, and had taken the pig anyway. You watched it go. The bailiff's man had come with a rope, and the pig had squealed, a high, terrible sound that made William cry, and your mother press her hands over her ears. You had stood in the yard, your fists clenched, watching the rope tighten around the pig's neck, watching it be dragged down the path toward the Lord's manor, watching your father turn away. That night, you ate the last of the chickens. Your mother had killed them herself, her hands steady, her face a mask you did not recognize. The broth was thin, the meat scarce, but it was hot, and it filled your stomach, and for one night you did not go to sleep hungry. Now, in July, there is no meat left. There is no grain. There is only what the woods and the hedgerows provide, nettles that sting your hands as you pick them, dandelion leaves that taste of bitter milk, wild garlic that leaves your breath sharp for hours. Your mother boils everything together in a pot of water, adding a handful of dried pea pods from the last of the winter's store, and calls it supper. Your father does not eat with you any more. He takes his bowl outside, sits on the stump by the gate, and eats alone, looking out at the fields. You do not ask him why. You think you know. It is your mother who decides to go to the woods. There are acorns, she says one morning, as you are preparing to go out for the day's gathering. Last year's acorns buried by squirrels. If we can find them, we can grind them into flour. You have heard of acorn bread. It is something the old people talk about, something from the famine that your grandmother lived through. It is bitter, they say, and hard on the stomach, but it keeps you alive. The woods lie to the north of the village, a great stretch of oaken beach that has belonged to the Lord since before anyone can remember. In ordinary times, the villagers are allowed to gather firewood and nuts there, to graze their pigs in the autumn. These are not ordinary times, and the woods are further than you have ever walked in your life. You leave at dawn, your mother carrying a sack, you carrying another. William is too weak for such a journey, and you leave him with a neighbor, a woman whose own children are grown and gone, who has no one left to feed but herself. Your father is already in the fields, trying to coax something from the stunted grain, and you do not say goodbye to him. The path to the woods is overgrown, no one has had the strength to keep it clear, and the brambles reach across it like grasping hands. You push through them, your arms scratched, your mother ahead of you, her back straight, her pace steady. She does not slow down, does not complain, does not look back to see if you are keeping up. You follow, because there is nothing else to do. The woods, when you reach them, are quiet. Too quiet. Too quiet. In other summers, they would be full of birdsong, the rustle of small animals, the distant crash of deer moving through the undergrowth. Now there is only the wind in the leaves, high and thin, and the sound of your own breathing. Your mother kneels at the base of an oak, scrabbling in the leaf litter with her fingers. You kneel beside her, and together you dig, turning over the damp earth, searching for the small brown nuts that the squirrels hid in better times. You find some. Not many of the squirrels themselves are hungry, and they have eaten more than they stored. But here and there, tucked against roots, buried under leaves, there are acorns. You put them in your sack, one by one, your fingers growing black with soil, your knees aching from the cold ground. Your mother works silently beside you, her movements quick and sure, her face intent. She does not stop to rest, does not look up, does not speak. By midday, you have filled half your sack. It is not much, a few pounds at most, but it is something. Your mother stands, stretching her back, and for a moment she looks at you, really looks, and you see something in her eyes that you have not seen in weeks. It is not hope exactly, it is something harder, something that has survived the rain and the rot and the empty grain chest. It is the knowledge that she has found a way. We will come back tomorrow, she says. And the day after, there will be more. You nod. Your hands are raw, your stomach hollow, but you nod. The walk back to the village is slower. Your mother's sack is heavy, and she carries it on her shoulder, her steps deliberate, her breath coming in short gasps. You offer to take it, but she shakes her head. You carry yours, she says. We will both carry what we can. When you reach the cottage, your father is there. He has not been to the fields. He sits at the table, his hands flat on the wood, staring at nothing. Your mother puts her sack down beside him, and he looks at it, at the acorns, at her. I found nothing, he says. The grain is dead. It will not come back. Your mother says nothing. She takes the acorns and spreads them on the table, and you see her begin to sort them, separating the good from the rotten, the whole from the broken. It is work that will take hours, work that will leave her hands stained and her back aching, but she does it without complaint, without pause. We will grind these, she says, and we will make bread, and we will live. Your father watches her for a long moment. Then he stands, and he takes a handful of acorns, and he begins to help. The bread your mother makes that evening is not like any bread you have eaten before. She has ground the acorns between two stones, reducing them to a coarse brown flour that smells of earth and bitter things. She has mixed it with water and a handful of the dried pea pods, crushed to powder, and she has shaped it into small loaves that she bakes in the embers of the fire. The loaves come out dark, almost black, their surface cracked, their texture heavy. When you bite into yours, the taste fills your mouth with something sharp and astringent, something that makes your tongue curl and your stomach clench. It is not good. It is not even close to good, but it is food, and you eat it, and your stomach stops its hollow aching, and for a moment you are warm. William eats his slowly, his face screwed up against the taste, but he eats. Your father eats without seeming to notice what is in his mouth. Your mother eats last, and you watch her take the smallest piece. Watch her break it into fragments, watch her chew each fragment as if it were the most precious thing in the world. That night, for the first time in weeks, you dream of something other than rain. You dream of your grandmother, the one who died last winter, the one who told stories about the old famine. She is sitting in the chair by the fire, the chair that your father burned for wood in April, and she is holding a loaf of bread, not the acorn bread, not the thin pottage, but a real loaf, brown and round, with a crust that crackles when she breaks it. She holds it out to you, and you reach for it, and your fingers close on nothing, and she is gone. You wake in the dark. The cottage is silent. Your mother is breathing beside you. Your father is a shape against the wall. William is a small warmth at your back. Outside, the wind has risen, and it moves through the trees with a sound like voices, low and indistinct, telling stories you cannot quite hear. You lie still, listening, and you think about the bread in your dream, about the grandmother who is buried in the churchyard, about the acorns that your mother found in the woods. You think about the hunger that is always there now, waiting at the edges of your awareness, waiting for the moment when you forget to be afraid. And you think about tomorrow. Tomorrow, you will go back to the woods, you will dig for acorns, and your mother will make bread, and you will eat, and you will live. One day, one meal, one small loaf at a time. The wind whispers outside. The cottage creaks. Somewhere in the darkness, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You close your eyes and you let the night hold you and you wait for morning. August comes to Thornwood like a held breath. The days are hot now, the sky a pale bleached blue that seems to go on forever. The mud that swallowed your father's boots in spring has become dust that rises in clouds when the wind blows, coating everything in a fine grey powder. The fields that were drowned, then scorched, now lie fallow. The stunted grain gone to seed too early. The weeds that replaced it already browning at the edges. There is nothing left to harvest. There is nothing left to harvest. There is nothing left to hope for. Your father no longer to the fields. He sits on the stump by the gate, his hands folded between his knees, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He does not speak much anymore. When your mother asks him something, he answers in single words, his voice flat, his gaze never shifting from the line where the sky meets the earth. You do not ask him anything. You are afraid of what he might say, or what he might not say. The acorn bread has become the center of your life. Every morning you and your mother walk to the woods, your sacks over your shoulders, your feet tracing the same path through the brambles. The squirrels have grown wise to your digging, and the acorns are harder to find now, scattered and scarce. Some days you come back with barely a handful. Other days you find a cache that someone, some creature has hidden and forgotten, and your sack is heavy, and your mother's step is lighter, and for a moment you think that perhaps you will make it through. But the acorns are bitter, and they sit in your stomach like stones. The bread your mother makes is darker now, harder, the flour mixed with dried nettle powder and ground pea pods and anything else she can find. William eats it without complaint, but his face is thin, his eyes too bright, and when he sleeps, he does not move for hours. The village has grown quiet. The children who used to play in the lane, who chased each other between the cottages and splashed in the stream, are gone now. Some are too weak to leave their beds. Some have been sent away to live with relatives in other villages, in towns, in places where the rain did not fall so long. Some have simply disappeared, their families packed up what little they had and left in the night, walking south toward the cities walking north toward the forests, walking anywhere that might have food. The Millers left last week. You had known them all your life. John Miller, who helped your father build the pigsty. His wife Margaret, who taught your mother how to make the salve for William's cradle cap. Their daughter Agnes, who was your age, who used to braid your hair by the stream on summer afternoons. They left in the grey hour before dawn, their cart loaded with what they could carry, their cow tied behind. You woke to the sound of wheels on the hard-packed road, and you ran to the window, and you saw them go. Agnes looked back, her face a white blur in the darkness, and then the cart turned the corner, and they were gone. Your mother stood beside you, her hand on your shoulder. "They will find something," she said. "There is food in the towns. The king will send supplies." You did not answer. "The king will send supplies." You did not answer. You had heard the stories from travelers passing through, the ones who came from the south with news of the world beyond Thornwood. The towns were worse, they said. The people were dying in the streets, whole families huddled in doorways, the dead left where they fell because no one had the strength to bury them. The king had issued proclamations, fixed prices for grain, but the grain did not come, and the prices meant nothing, and the people starved. You did not tell your mother these stories. She needed to believe that the Millers would find something. You needed to believe it too. It is the middle of August when Old Wat dies. Old Wat is not actually old, not in the way that grandmothers and grandfathers are old. He is perhaps 50, perhaps 55, a man who has lived his whole life in Thornwood, who worked the same strip of land his father worked before him, who lost 2 children to the fever that came through when your mother was a girl, who buried his wife 3 winters ago, and has lived alone since. He is not old, but he is old enough, and he has been hungry longer than most. The cough started 2 weeks ago, a dry, hacking thing that echoed from his cottage at night that made the neighbors turn their heads and pretend not to hear. Your mother went to him with her remaining herbs, a tincture of horehound, a tea made from dried coltsfoot, but he waved her away. "Save it for the children," he said, and she could not argue, because William had started coughing too, a soft, wet sound that she listened to in the dark. No one is sure exactly when he dies. His neighbor, a woman named Edith, brings him bread one morning and finds him still in his bed, his eyes open, his mouth slack. "He does not look dead," Edith says later, gathering the village women by the well. "He looks like he is sleeping, like he is dreaming." Your mother goes to prepare the body. It is women's work, this tending of the dead, and she has done it before, for your grandmother, for the babies who did not live, for the man who fell from the church roof 3 summers ago. She takes a clean cloth and a basin of water, and she goes to Old Wat's cottage, and she does not come back for 2 hours. When she returns, her face is the color of ash. She sits at the table, her hands folded in her lap, and she does not speak. You bring her water, and she drinks it, and you see her throat move, and you see her eyes, and you see that she has seen something that she cannot tell you. "He was too thin," she says finally. "There was nothing left of him." She means that the cough did not kill him, not really. The hunger did, the hunger that has been gnawing at Thornwood since the spring, that has taken the flesh from Old Wat's bones and the strength from his arms and the life from his chest. The hunger that is waiting now for the rest of you. They bury him the next day. There is no priest. Father Martin left 2 weeks ago, called to the bishop's manor for a council, or perhaps to find food, or perhaps to save himself. No one knows. No one has heard from him since. Robert the Reeve leads the prayers, stumbling over the Latin, his voice thin in the still air. The village gathers in the churchyard, the first time you have all been together in weeks, and you see what the hunger has done. The faces are all like Old Wat's face, hollow. The eyes are all like your father's eyes, fixed on something in the distance that no one else can see. The children cling to their mother's skirts, their wrists like sticks, their cheeks like parchment stretched over bone. You stand beside your mother, and you hold William's hand, and you feel his fingers, small and cold, and you do not let go. The grave is shallow. The men who dug it are too weak to go deeper, and the earth is hard from the summer heat, and they have done what they can. They lower Old Wat into the ground, and Robert says the words, and the women weep, and the men stand silent, and then it is done. You walk home through the village, past the empty cottages, past the closed doors, past the garden where the vegetables did not grow. William is quiet, his steps slow, his hand in yours. Your mother walks ahead, her back straight, her pace steady. Your father walks behind, his eyes on the ground, his hands empty. That night, the moon rises full and white over Thornwood. It is the first full moon of August, what your grandmother called the hunger moon, a time when stalls are empty, the fields bare, and the people wait for a harvest that never comes. You stand in the doorway, looking up at it, and you remember her voice, the stories she told about the old famine, about the year when the rain did not stop and the grain did not grow, and the people ate the bark of trees and the leather of their shoes. That was a long time ago, she said, when you asked her if she was afraid. That was a different world. But it is this world now, this village, this night. You go back inside and your mother is banking the fire and your father is sitting at the table and William is already asleep on his pallet. You lie down beside him and you close your eyes and you listen to the silence. The silence is not empty. It is full of things. It is full of the absence of rain, of the absence of bread, of the absence of all the sounds that used to fill the night, the cattle lowing, the pigs snuffling, the chickens settling in the rafters. It is full of the sound of your father breathing, slow and deliberate, the sound of your mother moving in the darkness, the sound of your own heart beating in your chest, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of a woman weeping. You do not know who it is. It could be anyone. It could be Edith, who found old Wat in his bed. It could be Margaret, who left her daughter behind when she fled south. It could be your mother, though she is not weeping now. She is kneeling by the hearth, her hands on the cold stone, her head bowed. You watch her for a long time. The moonlight comes through the window, pale and thin, and it falls on her hair, on her shoulders, on her hands that have gathered acorns and ground flour and made bread from nothing. She does not move. She does not move. She does not pray, not that you can hear. She kneels there in the darkness, and you watch her, and you do not know what she is thinking. You think about old Wat. You think about the way his face looked when Edith found him, like he was sleeping, like he was dreaming. You think about the words your mother said. There was nothing left of him. You think about the hunger that is in your own stomach, the constant ache that you have almost forgotten because it is always there, because it has become part of you, like your breath, like your heartbeat. You think about the millers and Agnes, and the cart that disappeared into the darkness. You wonder if they found food. You wonder if they are alive. You wonder if they are alive. You wonder if you will ever see them again. You think about your father, who does not go to the fields anymore. You think about your mother, who kneels by the cold hearth in the moonlight. You think about William, whose fingers are so thin, whose cough is getting worse, whose face is too sharp, whose eyes are too bright. And you think about the moon, the hunger moon, hanging in the sky above Thornwood, watching over the empty fields and the empty cottages and the people who are waiting for something, anything, to change. You close your eyes. You try to sleep. The weeping has stopped. The weeping has stopped. The village is quiet. The moonlight fades as the moon moves across the sky and the darkness deepens, and you lie on your pallet and you listen to your family breathing and you wait for morning. Morning comes. It always comes. Your mother is at the hearth. Your mother is at the hearth, stirring the fire back to life. Your father is sitting at the table, his hands flat on the wood. William is still asleep, his face soft in the grey light, his chest rising and falling, rising and falling. "We will go to the woods today," your mother says. "There will be more acorns. There are always more acorns." You nod. You get up. You pull on your shoes, the same shoes that have walked the path 100 times, the leather cracked, the soles thin. You take your sack, the one that has carried acorns and nettles and dandelion leaves, and you follow your mother out the door. The sun is rising over the fields, a pale disk behind the haze. The dust is already rising, the air already warm. The path to the woods is overgrown, the brambles reaching across it like hands, like fingers, like the hunger that is waiting for you in the shadows. Your mother walks ahead, her back straight, her pace steady. You follow, because there is nothing else to do. And somewhere behind you, in the cottage that has been your home for all the years you can remember, your father sits at the table, his hands flat on the wood, his eyes fixed on the horizon, and he waits. For what? You do not know. The rain, perhaps. The sun. The harvest that will not come. The something that will save you. The something that will make it all right. The something that your mother believes is out there, somewhere waiting to be found. You walk into the woods and you kneel at the base of an oak and you begin to dig. The earth is hard. The acorns are scarce. Your fingers are raw. Your stomach is hollow. Your head is light. But you dig and you find and you put them in your sack, one by one. And your mother works beside you, and the sun rises higher, and the shadows shorten, and the day passes, and you are still alive. And when you go home, when you give your father the acorns, when your mother makes the bread, when William eats his portion and asks for more and you give him yours, you do not think about the moon, or the grave, or the woman who wept in the darkness. You think about tomorrow. Tomorrow you will go back to the woods. You will dig for acorns. You will make bread. You will live. One small loaf at a time. The hunger moon will rise again. It always rises. But the sun rises too, and the days pass, and the world turns, and you are still here. You are still here. And that is something. That is everything. You close your eyes, and you let the darkness take you, and you sleep. September comes to Thornwood like a promise that was never meant to be kept. The sun softens, the air cools, and for a few days the world seems almost kind. The dust settles on the lane, the brambles stop their grasping, and the woods that have given you acorns and nettles and the bitter taste of survival take on the gold and copper of early autumn. It is the kind of September you remember from other years, from the time before the rain, when the harvest was being gathered and the village smelled of bread and ale, and the smoke from the common oven where everyone brought their loaves to bake. There is no common oven now. There is no bread, not the kind that needs an oven. There is only the acorn loaves your mother bakes in the embers, and the thin pottage of nettles and wild roots, and the hunger that has become as familiar as your own hands. Your father has begun to speak again, not much, and not about the fields or the harvest or the things that are gone. He speaks about the road, about the market town to the south, about the fair that is held there every September when the wool is clipped and the cheeses are ready and the merchants come from London and Norwich and places even further away. There will be grain, he says one evening, sitting by the fire that is smaller now, fed with branches your mother gathers from the edge of the woods because there is no wood left that is easy to reach. The merchants bring grain from the north, from the ports where ships come from Flanders. There is always grain at the fair. Your mother says nothing. She is grinding acorns between two stones, the slow, rhythmic work that has become the background of your days. Her hands are stained dark from the tannin, her nails cracked, her wrists thin. She does not look up. I could go, your father says. I could take something to trade. There must be something. Your mother stops grinding. She looks at him, and you see something pass between them, something that has been there for weeks, unspoken, growing in the silence like the weeds in the fields. We have nothing to trade, she says. Her voice is flat, not angry, not sad. Just a statement of fact. Your father looks around the cottage. The chests are empty. The walls are bare. The fire is low. The only things left are what you wear, what you sleep on, what you eat from. We have the pot, he says, your mother's hands still on the grinding stone. The pot, the small iron cauldron that hangs above the hearth, the one that has been in your family for longer than anyone can remember. It was your great-grandmother's, brought from the village where she was born, and it has cooked every meal you have ever eaten, every broth, every porridge, every pottage. It is the one thing the bailiff did not take, hidden in the woodpile when he came, pulled out again when he was gone. That pot keeps us alive, your mother says. Without it we cannot cook, we cannot boil water, we cannot the pottle water, we cannot the pot is iron, your father says. Iron has value. A merchant will take it for grain. A sack of grain will keep us alive longer than the pot will. Your mother does not answer. She begins to grind again, the stone moving against stone, the sound filling the cottage like the breathing of something old and patient. You lie on your pallet that night, listening to your parents not speak. The darkness is thick, the silence heavy. You know they are both awake, both thinking, both waiting for the other to say something that will make the decision easier. It is your mother who speaks first, in the grey hour before dawn, when the world is the colour of ash and the birds have not yet begun their song. "Take it," she says. Her voice is quiet, steady. "Take the pot. Take Alice with you. She is old enough to walk the road, and she has sharp eyes. If there is grain to be had, she will see it." Your father does not answer. You hear him rise from his pallet, hear his feet on the packed earth, hear his feet on the packed earth, hear the soft clink of the pot being lifted from its hook above the hearth. You hear your mother's breathing, steady and even, and you know she is watching him. You close your eyes and pretend to sleep, but your heart is beating too fast, and your mind is already walking the road, already seeing the fair, already imagining the sack of grain that will fill the empty chest and the bread that will come from it. Real bread, wheat bread that smells like the old days. When your mother wakes you, the light is grey, and the air is cold. Your father is already dressed, the pot wrapped in a piece of old sacking, tucked under his arm. He is not shaved, and his beard is grey now, or perhaps it has always been grey, and you are only now seeing it. His face is thinner than you remember, the bones sharp under the skin, the eyes deep-set and dark. "Come," he says, "we must be at the fair by midday if we are to find a merchant before the best grain is gone." You pull on your shoes, the ones that have walked to the woods 100 times, and you take the sack your mother gives you empty now, but ready to carry whatever your father can trade. She hands you a piece of acorn bread, the last of yesterday's baking, and you put it in your pocket, saving it for the road. William is still asleep. Your mother kneels beside him, her hand on his forehead, checking for the fever that comes and goes, for the cough that has settled in his chest and will not leave. She does not say goodbye to your father. She does not look at you. "Go," she says. "Come back." The road to the market town is 10 miles, or so your father says. You have never walked 10 miles in a day. You have never walked any mile that was not to the woods or the fields or the stream. But you are 12 years old, and your legs are long, and you have been walking all your life, even if not this far. The road is not what you expected. In the stories your grandmother told, the roads were full of travellers, carts and wagons and men on horses, all going to the fair, all carrying goods to trade. This road is empty. The fields on either side are brown and bare, the same stunted crops, the same withered weeds. The cottages you pass are dark, their doors closed, their gardens empty. You see no smoke from their chimneys, hear no voices, no animals. Some of them are empty, you realize. Some of them are bare with key. Your father walks ahead of you, the pot under his arm, his eyes on the road. He does not speak. You do not ask him to. You are saving your breath for the walking, for the miles that stretch ahead, for the fair that might have grain and might not, for the hope that is as fragile as the bread in your pocket. The sun rises higher, and the dust rises with it. You are thirsty, but there is no water on the road, no stream, no well. The bread in your pocket calls to you, but you do not eat it. You will eat it when you reach the fair, you tell yourself. You will eat it when the trading is done, when the sack is full, when your father's face is not so grey. The town appears suddenly, around a bend in the road. It is larger than you imagined, a cluster of buildings, a church with a tower, a market square, but it is not the town of your grandmother's stories, the one with crowds and noise and the smell of roasting meat. The streets are nearly empty. The market square, when you reach it, holds only a handful of stalls, their owners sitting listless behind meagre displays. A few bolts of cloth, some leather goods, a basket of apples that must be the last of last year's store. The grain merchants are at the far end of the square, 3 of them, their wagons drawn up in a line. You see the sacks stacked behind them, and your heart lifts. There is grain. There is grain, and your father has the pot, and there will be bread. Your father approaches the first merchant, a man with a red face and a leather apron, who sits on a stool beside his wagon, watching the square with narrow eyes. Your father unwraps the pot, holds it out. "Iron," he says. "Good iron. My grandfather's people made it. It will cook 100 meals, 1,000. I need grain, a sack of wheat or rye or barley, whatever you have. The merchant looks at the pot. He takes it, weighs it in his hands, runs his finger along the rim. His face does not change. 2 measures of barley, he says. That's what I'll give you. Your father's face goes still. 2 measures, 2 small scoops. Enough for perhaps a week, perhaps less. The pot is worth 10 times that. It is worth more than the grain, more than the merchant's wagon, more than anything in this empty square. It's worth more, your father says. His voice is low, careful. It's worth a sack, a full sack. The merchant shrugs. You see any other buyers? You see any other eyers? You see anyone else with grain to sell? There's no harvest, friend. The grain I have is from the north, and I paid for it with silver. 2 measures. Take it or leave it. Your father stands for a long moment, the pot in his hands, his face unreadable. You watch him and you see the thought moving behind his eyes. The thought of your mother, of William, of the empty chest, of the winter that is coming. You see him weigh the pot against 2 measures of barley, and you know what he will do, but before he can speak, a voice comes from behind you. 3 measures. You turn. A woman is standing there, old, bent, her face a map of wrinkles. She is dressed in grey, her hood pulled up against the sun, and she is looking at your father's pot with eyes that are sharp and clear. 3 measures, she says again. I have barley, good barley, from the north. I'll give you 3 measures for the pot. The merchant snorts. 3 measures. You'll bankrupt yourself, old woman. The woman does not look at him. She is looking at your father, at his hands, at the pot, at the sack you are holding. It's a good pot, she says. It will outlive us all. Your father looks at her, and something passes between them, something that is not about grain or iron or the price of things. He nods. 3 measures, he says. The woman leads you to her stall, a small cart at the edge of the square, where 3 sacks sit in the shade. She opens one, and you see the barley, pale gold, clean, dry. Your hands itch to touch it, to feel it, to know that it is real. Your father gives her the pot, and she gives him a scoop, and she fills your sack with 3 measures of barley, and your hands are shaking as you hold it open, as the grain pours in, as the weight settles against your legs. Thank you, your father says. His voice cracks. The woman waves a hand. Go, she says. Go home. Feed your family. You walk out of the market square, the sack heavy on your shoulder, your father beside you. The sun is past its height, the shadows lengthening, the road home stretching ahead. You have walked 10 miles to get here, and you will walk 10 miles back, and you have 3 measures of barley and a piece of acorn bread in your pocket, and a father who is walking a little straighter than he was this morning. You eat the bread as you walk, breaking it in 2, giving half to your father. He takes it, and you see his throat move as he swallows, and you see his eyes, and you do not ask him what he is thinking. The road home is longer than the road there. The shadows grow, and the light fades, and the empty fields turn to grey, and the empty cottages turn to shadows, and the miles pass under your feet like water, like time, like something that cannot be held. You are tired, your legs ache, your feet hurt. Your shoulder is raw where the sack has rubbed against it. But you do not stop. You do not ask your father to stop. You know that if you stop, you will not start again. The moon rises, not yet full, a thin crescent that casts little light. The road is dark, the fields are dark, the world is dark, the world is dark. But you know the way. You have walked this road once now, and your feet remember, and your father is beside you, and the sack is on your shoulder, and there is barley in it, and your mother is waiting. You see the lights of Thornwood before you see the village. They are small, scattered. The fires that have been banked for the night, the candles that burn in windows where people are still awake. Your mother has left a light for you, a rush dipped in fat, burning in the window of the cottage, and you see it from half a mile away, a small flame against the darkness. Your father sees it too. He walks faster, and you walk faster, and soon you are running, the sack bouncing against your back, your breath coming in gasps, your heart pounding, your legs moving without your permission. Your mother is at the door. She has been watching, waiting, holding the light. Her face is pale in the flame, her eyes wide, her hands reaching. "Did you get it?" she asks. "Did you get something?" Your father takes the sack from your shoulder, and he opens it, and he shows her the barley, the pale gold grain that will become porridge, that will become bread, that will become the difference between living and dying. She puts her hand into the sack, lets the grain run through her fingers. She looks at your father, at you, at the road you have walked, and you see her face change, the hardness that has been there for weeks, softening, the fear that has been in her eyes easing, just a little. "There is enough," she says. "There is enough for a week. Perhaps two, if we stretch it." Your father nods. He goes to the hearth where the fire has burned low, and he kneels beside it, and for a moment he does not move. Then he takes the small iron pot that hangs there, the one that was not traded, and he sets it on the fire. "We will have porridge," he says, "tonight, with the barley. We will have porridge, and we will eat it together, and tomorrow we will think about what comes next." Your mother takes the sack to the chest, the one that has been empty for so long, and she pours the barley into it, a few inches at the bottom, a small treasure. She closes the lid, and she sits at the table, and for a moment she puts her head in her hands, and you think she is crying, but when she looks up, her eyes are dry. "Wake William," she says. "He should eat. He should know that we have food." You go to the pallet where your brother lies, and you kneel beside him, and you touch his face. He is warm, too warm, and his breath is shallow, and for a moment you are afraid, but his eyes open, and he looks at you, and he smiles, a small smile, a shadow of the smile he had before. "Did you find it?" he asks. "Did you find the grain?" You nod. "Barley," you say. "We found barley." He tries to sit up, and you help him, and your mother brings him a bowl of porridge, thin, watery, but hot, and he holds it in his hands, warming them, and he eats, and you watch him, and you see the color come back to his face, just a little, just enough. Your father eats standing by the hearth, his bowl in his hands, his eyes on the fire. Your mother eats sitting beside William, feeding him spoonfuls, her face soft in the firelight. You eat at the table, the taste of the barley filling your mouth, and you think of the road, and the fair, and the old woman who gave you 3 measures, and the pot that is gone, and the pot that remains. And you think of the miles you walked today, 10 there and 10 back, and the miles you will walk tomorrow, to the woods, to gather acorns, to find nettles, to keep the family alive for 1 more day, 1 more week, 1 more month. The barley will last. It will not last forever, but it will last, and that is enough for now. That is everything for now. After the meal, you sit by the fire, and your mother tells William about the fair, about the merchants and the stalls, about the old woman who gave you 3 measures of barley for a pot that was old when your grandmother was young. She makes it a story, a good story, a story with a happy ending, and William listens, his eyes closing, his head nodding, his hand in hers. When he falls asleep, your mother carries him to his pallet, and she covers him with the blanket, and she sits beside him, watching him breathe. Your father banks the fire, and the cottage darkens, and the moonlight comes through the window, thin and silver, and you lie on your pallet, and you listen to the silence. It is not the same silence as before. It is softer, gentler. It is the silence of a family that has something, that has 3 measures of barley, that has a pot on the hearth, that has each other. You close your eyes. The road is behind you. The fair is behind you. The fair is behind you. The miles are behind you, and you are home, and your mother is here, and your father is here, and William is breathing beside you, and the barley is in the chest, and you are alive. You are alive. And tomorrow you will walk to the woods, and the day after you will walk to the stream, and the day after that you will walk to the fields that may never grow grain again. But tonight you are here. Tonight you are warm. Tonight you are warm. A night you have eaten, and that is enough. You let the darkness take you, and you sleep. October comes to Thornwood on a wind that smells of iron and ash. The barley your father brought from the fair is gone. You made it last as long as you could thin porridge in the mornings. A handful of grain added to the nettle pottage at night. A few spoonfuls saved for William when his cough worsened. But it is gone now, and the acorns are harder to find, and the woods have given up most of what they had. The trees themselves are beginning to change, the leaves turning bronze and red, and you know what that means. Winter is coming. The mornings are cold now. You wake to frost on the inside of the window, to breath that steams in the grey light, to the sound of your mother coughing softly as she stirs the fire. The fire is smaller than it was last winter, the woodpile lower, the logs you bring from the woods thinner and wetter. You have started breaking apart the old stool, the one your father made when you were small, the one you used to stand on to reach the table. It is good wood, dry, and it burns hot, and you try not to think about what you are burning. Your father has been walking the village for the past 3 days. He comes back with news that is not news, things you already know. The widow Ellis has sold her chickens to the butcher in town. The Carter family has slaughtered their oxen because there is no hay to feed them. The Smiths have let their goats go, turned them loose in the forest because they cannot afford to keep them. They say the Lord is reducing the herd, your father says one evening sitting by the fire, his hands wrapped around a cup of hot water flavored with a few dried mint leaves. He is sending his cattle to the southern pastures where the winter is milder, but the common herd, he shakes his head, there is no feed, the hay crop failed with everything else. The animals will starve if we keep them. Your mother is mending a tear in your tunic, her needle moving slowly, her fingers stiff with cold. She does not look up. What are you saying? Your father is quiet for a long moment. You watch him, and you see his hands tighten on the cup. See the way his jaw works. See the thing he does not want to say forming behind his eyes. The cow, he says finally. And the chickens. There is no feed for them. We cannot keep them through the winter. Your mother's needle stops. The silence in the cottage is sudden and complete. You can hear William breathing on his palate, the shallow rasp that has been there for weeks, that you have learned to listen for in the dark. The cow is the last animal you have. After the pig was taken, after the chickens were eaten, after the bailiff took what he wanted, there was only the cow. She's old, older than you, a brown and white creature with patient eyes and a swayed back. She has given you milk for all the years you can remember, milk that your mother turned into cheese and butter, milk that sustained William when your mother's own milk dried up after his birth. She has been your family's companion, her lowing a part of the sounds of your mornings, her presence in the byre, a comfort in the dark. She is still giving milk, your mother says. Her voice is tight, controlled, a little, enough for William. The milk will dry up when the cold comes, your father says. She needs hay, grain, something to keep her warm. We have nothing. Then we find something. We go to the woods, we cut browse, we have been to the woods. The deer are eating the bark from the trees. There is nothing left. Your mother puts down the tunic. She looks at your father, and you see something in her face that you have not seen before. It is not anger, not despair. It is something older, something that has been waiting in her since the spring, since the rain, since the first day she knew that the fields would not yield. When? She asks. Your father looks at the fire. Tomorrow, he says. I will ask John Fletcher to do it. He has a knife, and he knows how. Your mother nods. Your mother nods. She picks up the tunic again, and her needle begins to move, and you watch her. And you know that she is not seeing the cloth, not seeing the stitches, not seeing anything but the cow in the byre. The cow that has been with you for all your life. The cow that has been with you for all your life. The cow that is going to die tomorrow. You lie awake that night, listening to the sounds of the cottage. Your mother is not sleeping. You can hear her breathing, the quick, shallow breaths of someone who is trying not to cry. Your father is not sleeping either. He is lying on his back, staring at the ceiling, his hands folded on his chest. You do not know what he is thinking. You do not want to know. In the byre, the cow shifts, and you hear the soft clink of her tether, the slow exhalation of her breath. She is old, and she is thin, and she has given you everything she had. Tomorrow you will take the rest. The morning is grey and cold, the frost thick on the ground. Your father is up before dawn, and you hear him talking to John Fletcher at the gate, their voices low, carrying in the still air. You dress quickly, pulling on your tunic, your shoes, the shawl your mother gave you last winter, the one that is frayed at the edges and thin in the middle. Your mother is at the hearth, making a pottage of nettles and the last of the acorn flour. She does not look at you. She does not look at the door. She does not look at the door. She stirs the pot in slow, even circles, and you see her hands, and you see that they are trembling. William is still asleep. You are glad. He is too young to understand, too young to remember the cow as anything but a shape in the byre, a sound in the mornings. You want him to stay asleep. You want him to wake up and find that the cow is gone, and to ask where she went, and to be told that she has gone to the southern pastures, that she is safe, that she will come back in the spring. Your father comes back into the cottage. His face is the same grey stillness you have come to know, the mask he wears when there is nothing left to feel. He looks at your mother, and she looks at him, and something passes between them that you cannot name. "It is done," he says. Your mother nods. She takes the pot off the fire, and she pours the pottage into the bowls, and she sets them on the table. She does not ask how it was done, or whether it was quick, or whether the cow suffered. She does not ask anything. You eat your pottage. It tastes of nettles and acorns and something else, something that you cannot name, something that sits in your stomach like a stone. Later, you go to the byre. The door is open, and the inside is empty. The straw on the floor is trampled, and there are dark stains on the packed earth, and the smell of blood hangs in the air, thick and sweet. You stand in the doorway, looking at the empty space where the cow used to be, and you try to remember the sound of her breathing, the warmth of her flank when you pressed your face against it in the winter mornings, the soft rough of her tongue when she licked your hand for the salt she could smell on your skin. You cannot remember. The memory is there, somewhere, but you cannot reach it. All you can see is the stains on the floor, the empty tether, the silence where her breath used to be. Your mother finds you there. She does not say anything. She takes your hand and she leads you back to the cottage, and she sits you at the table, and she puts a cup of hot water in your hands. "We have meat now," she says. "We have meat for the winter." You look at the cup in your hands. The water is grey, the mint leaves floating on the surface. You do not drink it. The cow was old, your mother says. She would not have survived the winter. She would have starved, or frozen, or this is better. This is the way of things. You know she is right. You know that the cow was thin, that her ribs showed through her hide, that her eyes were dull, that she was already dying, slowly, day by day. You know that the meat will keep you alive, that the bones will make broth, that the hide will become shoes for William, that the horns will become buttons or handles or something else that will be useful. You know all of this, but you cannot stop seeing the stains on the floor. You cannot stop smelling the blood. You cannot stop hearing the silence where her breath used to be. John Fletcher brings the meat later that day. It is cut into pieces, wrapped in cloth, laid in a wooden crate that he carries on his shoulder. Your father pays him with a length of rope and a promise, and John Fletcher nods, and he goes, and you are alone with the meat. Your mother sets to work immediately. The salting is a ritual she learned from her mother, who learned it from hers. She takes the largest pieces and rubs them with salt, the coarse grey salt that she bought at the fair with the last of your father's coins. She packs them in a wooden barrel that has been empty for months, layering salt between each piece, pressing down, sealing the top. The smaller pieces she hangs from the rafters, where the smoke from the fire will cure them, turning them dark and hard, the way meat is supposed to be for the winter. You help her. You carry the pieces, hold the barrel steady, watch her hands move with a speed and sureness that comes from years of doing this, years of preserving what the land has given. But you see her hands tremble, you see her pause, sometimes over a particular piece, her fingers tracing the grain of the meat, as if she is reading something written there. You see her close her eyes, once, quickly, before she reaches for the next. William wakes in the afternoon. He is hungry, as he always is, and your mother gives him a bowl of the pottage, the same as before, and he eats it without asking for more. He does not ask about the cow. Perhaps he knows. Perhaps he does not. You do not ask him. That night, your mother makes a stew with some of the meat. It is the first meat you have tasted since the chickens were eaten, months ago. The broth is rich, dark, and you can taste the salt and the smoke and something else. Something that is not like any meat you have eaten before. It is tough, and it is stringy, and it tastes of age, of a long life, of something that was old and tired, and gave itself to you in the end. You eat it, and you are hungry, and it fills your stomach, and you are grateful, and you hate yourself for being grateful. William eats his portion slowly, savoring each bite. He does not know what he is eating. He does not know that the meat came from the cow he used to pat in the mornings, the cow he called Bess, the cow whose ears he used to pull when he was small and did not know any better. He eats, and he smiles, and he asks for more, and your mother gives him hers, and he eats that too. Your father does not eat. He sits by the fire, watching the flames, his hands empty. When your mother offers him a bowl, he shakes his head. "I am not hungry," he says. You know he is lying. You have seen him give his portion to William, to you, to your mother, for weeks. You have seen the hollows in his cheeks, the sharpness of his jaw, the way his clothes hang on him now, loose and empty. You know he is hungry. But you do not say anything. You do not know how to say anything. You do not know how to say anything. That night you lie on your pallet, and you listen to the sounds of the cottage. The meat hangs from the rafters, dark shapes in the darkness. The wind has risen, and it moves through the thatch with a sound like breathing. Your mother is asleep, finally, her breathing deep and even. Your father is not asleep, finally, her breathing deep and even. Your father is not asleep. You can hear him, lying on his pallet, not moving, not speaking, just breathing. You close your eyes. You try to remember the cow, the way she used to stand in the byre, her head turned toward the door, waiting for you in the mornings. You try to remember the warmth of her milk, the way it steamed in the cold air, the taste of it on your tongue. You try to remember the sound she made when William patted her, a low, soft sound that was almost a sigh. But all you can see is the stains on the floor. All you can smell is the blood. All you can taste is the meat, the tough, stringy meat that is in your stomach, that is keeping you alive, that is the last gift of a creature that was old and tired and had nothing left to give. You turn on your pallet, and you pull the blanket over your head, and you listen to the wind, and you wait for sleep. It does not come. In the morning, your mother is at the hearth, making porridge from the last of the acorn flour. The meat hangs from the rafters, dark and still. Your father is already outside, checking the empty by, for something you cannot name. You dress, and you go to the door, and you look out at the village. The smoke rises from a few chimneys, thin and grey. The fields are brown, the trees are bare, the world is the colour of bone. And somewhere, in the distance, a cow lows a long, low sound that carries on the wind, that is answered by another and another, until the air is full of them, the sound of the village's animals being led away, being slaughtered, being turned into meat for the winter that is coming. You stand in the doorway, and you listen, and you do not cry. You are too old to cry, your mother says. You are too old for that. But you are not too old, remember, says. You are too old for two. You're not too old to know that the meat in the rafters is not just meat. It is Bess, who was old and tired and gave you everything she had. It is the pig that squealed when they took it. It is the chickens that stopped laying. It is all the animals that have been your companions, your livelihood, your hope, taken one by one, until there is nothing left but the meat hanging from the rafters and the winter waiting outside. Your mother calls you to eat. You go inside. You sit at the table. You take the bowl she gives you, and you eat, and you do not taste anything. And when you are finished, you take your sack, and you go to the door, and you look back at the cottage, at the meat hanging from the rafters, at your mother at the hearth, at your father outside in the cold, at William sleeping on his pallet, and you know that this is what survival is. It is not brave. It is not noble. It is not anything that the songs will sing about. It is the taste of salt and smoke. It is the smell of blood in the bye. It is the silence where the cow used to be. You go out into the cold and you walk toward the woods, and you begin to dig for acorns because the meat will not last forever, because winter is coming, because you are still alive, and being alive means finding food, means carrying your sack, means putting one foot in front of the other, means doing what must be done. Behind you, the meat hangs from the rafters. The cow is gone. The pig is gone. The kid is gone. And you are here, walking toward the woods, digging for acorns, living. It is not enough. It is not nearly enough, but it is all you have. November comes to Thornwood like a door closing. The frost that began in October hardens into something more permanent. A cold that settles into the bones of the village and does not leave. The mornings are white with it, the thatch stiff, the puddles in the lane turn to sheets of grey ice that crack under your feet. The sun, when it appears, is pale and distant, a disk of light that gives no warmth. The world has shrunk to the space between the cottage and the woods, between the hearth and the table, between waking and sleeping. The meat from the cow is half gone. Your mother has rationed it carefully, a piece each day, added to the pottage of nettles and acorn flour and the few roots you can still find in the forest. The broth is richer now, darker, and it fills your stomach in a way the thin pottage never did. But you know it will not last. You count the pieces hanging from the rafters, and you know. The woods are changing. The animals that used to live there, the deer and the rabbits and the wild pigs, have moved deeper into the forest or died, or been eaten by the villagers who are as hungry as you are. You see tracks sometimes. In the frost, the delicate prints of a fox or the heavier marks of a badger. But you never see the animals themselves. They have learned to fear you. They have learned that the creatures who walk on two legs are more dangerous than any wolf. The wolves come in the second week of November. You hear them first. It is late, the fire banked, the cottage dark. William is asleep beside you, his breathing shallow but steady. Your mother is on her pallet, and you can hear her turning, the soft rustle of the blanket, the small sigh she makes when she cannot find comfort. Your father is awake too. You know, because you can see his silhouette against the window. The faint grey of the moon behind him, the shape of his head bent, listening. The howl comes from the north, from the direction of the woods. It is not the first time you have heard wolves this autumn. They have been calling to each other for weeks, their voices carrying across the empty fields, rising and falling like the wind. But this howl is closer. This howl is nearer than it has ever been before. Your father stands. He moves to the door, and you hear him check the bar, the heavy piece of oak that he has used to secure the door since the nights began to turn cold. He checks the window too, the wooden shutters that close against the night, the leather straps that hold them shut. He moves quietly, but you can hear him, and you know that he is afraid. The wolves call again. This time, there is an answer from the east, from the direction of the river. Then another from the south. They are circling the village, you realize. They are hunting. Your mother sits up on her pallet. "Thomas," she whispers. "What is it?" "Wolves," your father says. His voice is low, steady. "They are close," your father says. His voice is low, steady. "They are close. They have not come into the village before, but tonight." He does not finish. He does not need to. You have heard the stories, the ones the old people tell when the nights are long and the fire is low. The wolves come when the hunger is worst, they say. They come when the deer are gone and the rabbits are gone and the forest can no longer feed them. They come for the sheep and the cattle, and when the sheep and the cattle are gone, they come for William, your mother says. She is already moving, her arms around your brother, pulling him against her. He stirs, murmurs something, settles again. She holds him, her face white in the darkness. Your father takes the axe from beside the hearth. It is not a weapon, not really. It is for cutting wood, for splitting kindling, for the work of keeping warm. But it is iron, and it is heavy, and it will do if it must. He stands by the door, the axe in his hands, listening. The wolves call again, closer now, and you hear something else, a sound you have never heard before, a sound that makes your blood turn cold. It is not a howl. It is something lower, something rougher. It is the sound of something being torn. One of the villagers kept sheep, the last sheep, perhaps the only one that survived the summer. You remember hearing that Widow Collins still had a ewe, a thin, mangy thing that she kept in her cottage, fed from her own plate. You remember thinking that it was foolish, that the ewe would die anyway, that the widow was only delaying the inevitable. Now you hear that you die anyway. You had not heard. The screaming stops. The wolves are quiet for a moment, and then there is a sound that is worse than the screaming. It is the sound of eating, the wet, tearing sound of teeth on flesh, of hunger being fed. Your mother presses her hand over William's ears. He is awake now, his eyes wide, his mouth open. She pulls him against her, and she rocks him, and she hums a tune, something soft and wordless, something from a time before the rain. Your father does not move from the door. He stands there, the axe in his hands, and he listens to the wolves eat, and you watch him, and you see something in his face that you've never seen before. It is not fear. It is not the grey stillness that came after the fields drowned. It is something else, something that has been waiting in him since the spring, since the rain, since the first day he knew that the world had changed. It is the knowledge that there is nothing he can do. The wolves do not come to your cottage that night. They, the widow's sheep, and then they move on, their howls fading into the distance, back toward the woods, back toward the dark. But the fear does not fade. It stays with you, in the cottage, in the darkness, in the space between your father and the door. You do not sleep again that night. You lie on your pallet, listening, waiting for the sound that will tell you they have come back. But there is only the wind and the creak of the cottage and your mother's humming and the slow, steady breathing of your brother, who has fallen back asleep in her arms, who does not know what he heard, who will not remember in the morning. When the grey light of dawn finally comes, your father goes out. You watch him from the window, walking down the lane toward Widow Collins's cottage. He moves slowly, his steps careful, his eyes on the ground. He is looking for tracks, you think. He is looking for the signs that the wolves left behind. He comes back an hour later. His face is the color of ash. The sheep is gone, he says. The widow is alive. She was inside, and she did not open the door, and the wolves could not get in. He pauses. But they will be back. They are hungry, and there is nothing left for them in the forest. Your mother is at the hearth, making the morning pottage. She does not turn around. Then we must be careful, she says. We must keep the door barred. We must not go out after dark. Your father nods. He sits at the table, and you see his hands, and you see that they are shaking. That day the village meets. It is the first time you have all gathered since old Watt's funeral, and there are fewer of you now. The Millers are gone. The Smiths are gone. The Carters are gone. The Carters are gone. The ones who remain are the ones who could not leave, the ones who had nowhere to go, the ones who are waiting for something to change. Robert the Reeve stands in the center of the lane, his voice thin in the cold air. The wolves came last night, he says. They will come again. We must post watches. We must keep fires burning. We must not let the children out alone. The villagers nod. They are too tired to speak, too hungry to argue. They agree to the watches, to the fires, to the rules that will keep them safe. And then they go back to their cottages, back to their cold hearths, back to waiting. Your father is given the watch for the first night. He will stand at the edge of the village with John Fletcher and Robert the Reeve, and they will watch for the wolves, and they will keep the fires burning, and they will listen for the sounds that mean the wolves have come again. You do not want him to go. You want him to stay in the cottage, with the door barred, with the axe by his side. But you do not say anything. You are 12 years old, and you know that some things cannot be said. He leaves at dusk. He takes the axe, and a torch made from a branch and a rag soaked in fat, and a piece of the dried meat from the rafters. Your mother watches him go, and you see her hands, and you see that they are folded together, tight, the knuckles white. You sit by the fire, and you wait. William is asleep, finally, his breathing shallow but steady. Your mother is pretending to sew, her needle moving in the dim light, her eyes fixed on the door. You are pretending to be warm, pretending to be safe, pretending that you are not listening for the howls that will come when the moon rises. The night is long. The fire burns low, and your mother adds wood, piece by piece, stretching the fuel, making it last. The wind rises and you hear it in the thatch, a low moan that sounds almost like a voice. You wrap your arms around your knees and you rock and you wait. The howls come at midnight. They are far away, to the north, to the woods, but they are there. One voice, then another, then a chorus that rises and falls and rises again. You hold your breath, listening for the sounds that will tell you they are coming closer. They do not come closer. The howls fade, and there is silence, and then there is nothing but the wind. Your father comes back at dawn. His face is grey, his eyes red, his hands blue with cold. He puts the axe by the hearth, and he sits at the table, and he does not speak. Your mother brings him pottage. He eats it without tasting it, and then he goes to his pallet, and he sleeps. That day, the village is quiet. No one goes to the woods. No one walks the lane. The children stay inside, and the women keep the fires burning, and the men sleep, because tonight they will watch again. The wolves come back on the third night. They come closer this time, close enough that you can hear their breath, the soft pad of their feet on the frozen ground. You lie on your pallet, William pressed against you, your hand over his mouth so he will not cry out. Your mother is by the door, her hands on the bar, her face white in the darkness. Your father is outside, with the other men, with the torches and the axes, and you do not know if he is alive or dead. The wolves circle the cottage. You hear them, the soft whine of one, the growl of another. They are close, so close that you can hear them breathing, hear the click of their claws on the frozen earth. You press your hand tighter over William's mouth, and you feel his heart beating against your chest, fast, like a bird's. One of them scratches at the door. You hear the wood splinter, just a little, and your mother puts her weight against the bar, and you hear her whispering, something, anything, a prayer, a curse, a word without meaning. The scratching stops. There is a moment of silence, and then a howl, close, so close that it seems to come from inside the cottage, from inside your own chest. And then another, and another, and then nothing. You lie there in the darkness, and you wait. You wait for the sound that will tell you they have gone. You wait for the light that will tell you it is morning. You wait for your father to come home. He comes at dawn. He is not alone. John Fletcher is with him, and Robert the Reeve, and two other men whose faces you do not recognize in the grey light. They are carrying something, something heavy, something wrapped in a blanket. They bring it to the churchyard, and you follow, because your mother is following, because William is following, because there is nothing else to do. It is the widow Collins. She went out in the night, they say. She went out to bring in wood, or to check her door, or to see if the wolves had gone. No one knows. No one saw. They found her in the morning, by her door, the wood scattered around her, the snow red. The men dig the grave. It is shallow like old Watts, the ground too hard to go deep. They say the words, the same words Robert said before, stumbling over the Latin, his voice thin in the cold air, and then they fill the grave, and they go back to their cottages, and they wait for the night. Your father does not sleep that day. He sits by the hearth, the axe across his knees, and he watches the door. You watch him, and you see something in his face that you have not seen before. It is not fear. It is not the grey stillness. It is something else, something that has been growing in him since the wolves came, since the widow died, since he stood at the edge of the village with the other men and listened to the darkness. It is the knowledge that he cannot protect you, that no one can. The wolves do not come that night. They do not come the next night, or the night after. The watches continue, the fires burn, the men stand at the edge of the village with their axes and their torches, and the wolves stay in the woods. But you know they are there. You hear them sometimes, in the distance their voices rising and falling, and you know that they are waiting. You lie on your pallet, and you listen, and you wait with them. The meat from the cow is almost gone. Your mother counts the pieces hanging from the rafters, and you see her face, and you know that she is counting the days. When the meat is gone, there will be only the acorns, only the nettles, only the roots that are harder to find now, buried under the frost, hidden in the frozen earth. You do not know what will happen then. You do not want to know. The winter is not yet here, not truly. The snow has not come, not the deep snow that will close the roads and bury the fields and make the woods impassable. There is still time, your mother says, time to find more acorns, time to dig more roots, time to prepare, but you have been preparing since the spring. You have been gathering and digging and saving, and still the chest is empty. Still the chafters are bare, still the hunger waits, and in the woods the wolves too. Your father takes his watch again, and again, and again. He does not complain. He does not sleep. He sits by the hearth in the day, and he stands at the edge of the village in the night, and he watches, and he waits. You see his face in the firelight, and you see that it is not his face anymore. It is the face of a man who has seen something that cannot be unseen. You want to ask him what he saw. You want to know what happened on the night the widow died. But you do not ask. You are afraid of what he might say. The moon is full again. It is the last full moon before winter, the moon that your grandmother called the wolf moon, when the wolves are hungriest and come closest to the village to take what they need to survive. You stand in a doorway, looking up at it, and you remember her voice, the stories she told about the old famines, about the wolves that came in the winter, about the children who were lost. Those were stories, you thought. Stories from a different world. But this world is the same. The wolves are here. The hunger is here. The winter is coming. You go back inside. Your mother is at the hearth, making the last of the acorn flour into bread. William is asleep. Your father is at the door, the axe in his hands, listening. You lie on your pallet, and you close your eyes, and you listen too. The night is quiet. Too quiet. The wind has stopped, and the cottage is still, and the darkness is so thick you can feel it pressing against your skin. You listen for the wolves, for the howl that will tell you they have come. But there is nothing. Only the silence. You do not sleep. You lie on your pallet, and you wait. And you wonder if this is what it feels like to be the widow, alone in her cottage, listening for the sound that will tell her that the wolves have gone, or that they have come, or that there is no difference anymore. In the morning, your father is still at the door. He has not moved. The axe is in his hands, his knuckles white around the handle. His face is the color of ash, and his eyes are red, and he is looking at something you cannot see. Thomas, your mother says, come to the fire. It is cold. He does not move. He stands at the door, and he listens, and you know that he is listening for something that is not there, something that will never be there again. You go to him. You take his hand, the one that is holding the axe, and you feel the cold of his skin, the hardness of the wood, the tension in his fingers. You look up at him, and you see that he is not looking at the door. He is looking at the window, at the grey light, at the world outside. They are still there, he says. His voice is low, a whisper. They are still there, he says. His voice is low, a whisper. They are waiting. You do not ask who were. You stand beside him, and you hold his hand, and you wait too. The winter is coming. The wolves are waiting, and you are here, in the cottage, with your mother and your father and your brother, with the empty chest and the bare rafters, and the hunger that never leaves. And you wait. You do not know what you are waiting for. The spring, perhaps. The thaw. The end of the cold. Or something else. Something that has no name. Something that will come when the waiting is over. When the wolves have gone. When the hunger has been fed. You wait. And the winter waits with you. December comes to Thornwood like a wound that will not close. The snow arrives in the first week. Not the soft, gentle snow of other years, but a hard, driving sleet that freezes as it falls, coating the world in a shell of ice. The lanes become impassable, the fields white, the woods transformed into something alien and sharp. The cold is relentless, a presence that waits outside the door, that seeps through the walls, that finds the cracks in the thatch and the gaps in the shutters and the spaces between the stones. You have burned the stool and the old chair and the wooden bowl that your father carved before you were born. You have burned the handle of the broken rake and the boards from the chicken coop that collapsed in the autumn and the last of the kindling that you gathered when the woods were still reachable. There is nothing left to burn but the door, And your father has said that when the door is gone, there is nothing left to keep out the cold, and so you huddle by the small fire that your mother feeds with branches she cuts from the hedge, and you wait for the wood to run out, and you try not to think about what comes after. The meat from the cow is gone. The last piece was eaten 3 days ago, the last bone boiled for broth, the last scrap of fat rendered into a thin grease that your mother has been using to rub on William's chest, hoping to ease the cough that has settled there, that will not leave. The acorns are gone too, the woods are too deep in snow to reach, and even if you could reach them, the squirrels have taken what was left, or the deer, or the wolves. There is nothing left to gather. There is nothing left to trade. There is nothing left but the bark of the trees that line the lane, and the memory of bread, and the hunger that has become the only thing that is real. Your mother calls it famine bread. She learned the recipe from her grandmother, who learned it from hers, passed down through the generations, a knowledge that was supposed to be a memory, not a necessity. You take the inner bark of the birch trees, the thin layer between the rough outer skin and the wood, and you dry it by the fire, and you grind it between stones, and you mix it with water and the last handful of acorn flour, and you bake it in the embers. The bread that comes out is grey, almost black, and it smells of earth and sap and something that is not quite food. It is bitter, and it is tough, and it sits in your stomach like a stone, but it fills you, and it keeps you alive, and that is all that matters now. William cannot eat it. His stomach is too weak, his throat too raw, and when your mother tries to give him a piece, softened in water, he retches, and the little he has kept down comes back up. She feeds him broth instead, the thin grey water that she makes by boiling the bones of the cow again and again, until there is no taste left, until the bones are white and brittle and crumble to dust between her fingers. He drinks it, and he sleeps, and she sits beside him, and you see her hands, and you see that they are shaking. Your father does not eat. You've noticed that he takes his piece of famine bread and puts it in his pocket, and later you find it hidden in the chest, or under his pallet, or tucked into the thatch above the door. He is saving it, you realize. He is saving it for you, for William, for your mother. He's giving you what he has and taking nothing for himself, and you see his face, and you see that it is not the face of a man who is hungry. It is the face of a man who has stopped wanting. The village has grown silent. The watchers against the wolves have stopped, not because the wolves are gone, but because there is no one left to stand them. The men who are still alive are too weak to walk to the edge of the village, too weak to hold their axes, too weak to care if the wolves come. John Fletcher died last week. His daughter found him in the morning, still in his bed, his eyes open, his face peaceful, the way old Watts was. Robert the Reeve died 3 days later. He was making his way to the church to light a candle for the souls of the dead, and he fell in the lane, and the cold took him before anyone could reach him. There is no one to say the words over them. There is no one to dig the graves. The snow covers them, and the village does not speak of them, and you do not know if that is because there are no words left, or because the words have become meaningless. Your mother goes to the church sometimes. You do not know why. The church is cold, the roof fallen in, the windows broken, the altar buried under snow. There is nothing there but stone and silence, and the memory of something that was supposed to protect you. But she goes, and she kneels, and she stays for an hour, and when she comes back, her face is no different than it was before. You ask her once what she prays for. She looks at you for a long moment, and you see something in her eyes that you have not seen before. Something that is not hope, not faith, not anything that you have a name for. I do not pray, she says. I sit and I listen, and sometimes, in the silence, I hear something. I do not know what it is. But it is there. You do not ask her again. You are afraid that if you ask, she will tell you that the silence is empty, that there is nothing there, that she has been kneeling in the cold for nothing. You are afraid that she will tell you the truth. The famine bread is running out. The birch trees along the lane have been stripped bare, their trunks pale and raw, the inner bark gone. Your mother has started taking bark from the oaks, but it is harder, thicker, and when you grind it, it does not become flour, only splinters that cut your mouth and scratch your throat. You have tried boiling it, making a kind of porridge, but it sits in your stomach like gravel, and you are hungry again within an hour. You dream of bread, not the famine bread, the grey bitter bread of bark and acorns, but real bread. The bread that your mother used to make before the rain, the round brown loaves that came from the common oven, the ones with the crackled crust and the soft center, the ones that smelled of yeast and wheat and something that was almost sweet. You dream of breaking it open, of the steam that rose from it, of the taste of it on your tongue. You wake with your mouth dry, your stomach hollow, your hands empty. You're not the only one who dreams. In the village, people speak of the dreams as if they are visions, as if the bread they see in their sleep is a promise, a sign that the hunger will end. Your mother does not speak of her dreams. She wakes in the morning and she goes to the hearth and she makes the famine bread and she gives it to you and she says nothing. William does not dream. He lies on his pallet, his eyes half open, his breath shallow, and you do not know if he is awake or asleep, if he is here or somewhere else. His face is the color of wax, his hands like bird's claws, his body so thin that you can count every rib, every bone in his spine, every joint in his fingers. Your mother sits beside him, and she holds his hand, and she talks to him, telling him stories, the old stories, the ones that your grandmother told, about the green man and the fairy folk and the king who slept under the hill. She tells him about the spring that will come, about the fields that will turn green again, about the bread that will fill the table, and the milk that will fill the pail, and the sun that will warm the world. She tells him these things, and you see his eyes move, just a little, and you think that perhaps he hears her, that perhaps somewhere inside him there is still a spark, still a hope, still something that is waiting for the spring. You want to believe it. You need to believe it. You need to believe it. But you have seen too much these past months. You have seen the fields drown, and the grain rot, and the animals taken one by one. You have seen the acorns run out, and the bark run out, and the hope run out. You have seen the faces of the people you knew, the ones who left and the ones who stayed, the ones who died and the ones who are still dying. You have seen the wolves and the cold and the silence that has settled over Thornwood like a shroud. And you do not know if there is anything left to believe in. Your father goes out one morning, when the snow has stopped and the sky is clear, and the cold is so intense that it takes your breath away. He does not say where he is going. He takes the axe, and he goes out into the white world, and you watch him from the window, a dark figure against the snow, moving slowly, his steps uncertain, his head bowed. Your mother stands beside you, and you see her hands, and you see that they are not shaking. They are still. He is gone for 3 hours. When he comes back, he is carrying something, something wrapped in his tunic, something that he holds against his chest. He comes into the cottage, and he lays it on the table, and he unwraps it, and you see what it is. It is a root, a great gnarled root the size of your head, covered in earth, its tendrils still clinging to it, its skin rough and dark. You have never seen anything like it. It is not a turnip, not a carrot, not anything that grows in the fields or the gardens. It is something from deeper, something that has been waiting in the earth, hidden, forgotten. It is a skiret, your father says. His voice is hoarse, his breath steaming in the cold air. I found it in the old field where the marsh was. The frost had turned the ground, and I saw it, half exposed, and I dug. Your mother touches it. Her fingers trace the rough skin, the twisted shape, the small roots that still cling to it. She does not ask how he found it, or how he knew where to look. She takes it, and she goes to the hearth, and she begins to prepare it. The skillet takes a long time to cook. Your mother boils it in the pot, the same pot that was not traded, the one that has cooked the famine bread, and the nettle pottage, and the last broth from the cow's bones. The water turns brown, then dark, and the smell that rises from it is not the smell of bread, not the smell of anything you have ever eaten, but it is warm, and it fills the cottage, and you feel your stomach clench with something that is almost hope. When it is ready, your mother takes it from the pot, and she cuts it into pieces, and she gives one to your father, and one to you, and one to William, who stirs when she touches his face, who opens his eyes, who takes the piece in his hands and looks at it as if it is a thing from another world. You eat it slowly. It is not sweet, not like the roots that you used to eat in the autumn, the carrots and parsnips that your mother would roast in the ashes. It is earthy, and it is tough, and it has a taste that you cannot name, a taste that is old, that has been in the ground for a long time, that has been waiting. But it is food, and it fills your stomach, and for a moment you are not hungry. William eats his piece, and then he sleeps, and your mother sits beside him, and you see her face, and you see that there is something there that has not been there for a long time. It is not hope. It is not the thing that she hears in the silence of the church. It is something smaller, something that is only for this moment, for this piece of root, for this small warmth in the cold. Your father sits by the fire, and you sit beside him, and you do not speak. The wind has risen again, and it moves through the thatch, and the cottage creaks, and the darkness presses against the window. But you are here, and you have eaten, and for now that is enough. You do not know what will come tomorrow. The skirret is only one root, and there are no more in the field, your father says, or none that he could find. The bark is gone. The acorns are gone. The meat is gone. There is only the bread of branches, and the memory of bread, and the winter that is not yet over. But tonight you are warm. Tonight you are full. Tonight you are alive. You lie on your pallet, and you listen to the wind, and you let the darkness take you, and you dream of nothing. No bread, no fields, no spring. Only the darkness and the silence and the slow, steady beat of your heart, telling you that you are still here, that you are still alive, that there is still something left to wait for. And somewhere, in the deep of the night, you hear it. A sound that is not the wind, not the creak of the cottage, not the breathing of your family. It is a sound that comes from far away, from beyond the village, from beyond the fields, from beyond the white world that has become your home. It is a sound that you have not heard in months, that you had forgotten, that you thought was lost. It is the sound of a bird singing. You lie still and you listen, and you do not know if it is real, or if it is a dream, or if it is something that your mother hears in the silence of the church, something that has no name, something that is there and not there, but you hear it, and for a moment the darkness is not so dark, the cold is not so cold, the winter is not so long. The bird sings again, a small thin sound, a thread of light in the darkness. And you close your eyes, and you let it carry you, and you sleep. February comes to Thornwood like a hand opening. You feel it before you see it. One morning you wake to a silence that is different from the silence of the deep cold. It is softer, somehow, less brittle. The air that seeps through the cracks in the walls does not cut your skin. It is still cold, still winter, but something has shifted. Something is waiting. Your mother feels it too. She stands in the doorway, her hand on the frame, looking out at the white world. The snow is still deep, still frozen, but there is a quality to the light, a softness at the edges that has not been there before. She does not speak. She stands there for a long time, and you watch her, and you see her shoulders rise and fall with her breathing, and you know that she is listening for something. William is alive. That is what you tell yourself, what you hold on to, what you repeat in the darkness when the fear comes. He is alive. He is thin, so thin that you can see the pulse beating in his throat, the blue veins beneath his skin. He does not speak anymore, not really. Sometimes he murmurs, words that have no meaning, names that you do not recognize. He does not eat the famine bread. He cannot keep it down. Your mother makes him a thin gruel from the last of the skirret, from the dried nettles, from anything she can find that will dissolve in water. He drinks it, and he sleeps, and you sit beside him, and you hold his hand, and you wait. Your father has stopped going out. There is nowhere to go. The woods are impassable, the fields buried, the lane a memory beneath the snow. He sits by the hearth, the axe beside him, his hands empty. He does not speak. He does not move. He is waiting too. The thaw begins in the second week of February. It is not sudden. It is a slow, patient thing, the way the cold has been slow and patient all winter. The snow begins to settle, to sink, to turn from white to grey. The icicles that hang from the thatch begin to drip, a sound that you have not heard in months, a sound that is almost like rain. The lane reappears, brown and muddy, a scar through the white. The fields emerge one by one, the brown earth showing through the melting snow, the stubble of last year's crops still there, dead and brown, waiting. Your mother goes to the church. She has not been for weeks. The cold was too deep, the snow too high, and she could not leave William. But now she goes, and you go with her, because you need to see something that is not the cottage, because you need to feel the sun on your face, because you need to know that the world is still there. The church is still standing. The roof has fallen in further, the stones are cracked, the altar buried under snow and rubble. But there is light coming through the broken windows, and the air is still, and there is a smell of stone and earth and something else, something that might be the memory of incense, of candles, of all the prayers that were said here before the rain. Your mother kneels where the altar used to be. She does not pray. She sits, her hands folded, her eyes closed, and you sit beside her, and you wait. The silence is not empty. It is full of the sound of melting snow, of water dripping, of the slow, patient work of the thaw. It is full of something else, something that you cannot name, something that has been here all along, waiting. You do not know how long you sit there. The light shifts, the shadows lengthen, and your mother opens her eyes. She looks at you, and you see something in her face that you have not seen for a long time. It is not hope. It is something quieter, something that has survived the hunger and the cold and the long, dark months. It is the knowledge that the winter is ending. We must plant, she says. When the ground thaws, we must plant. You have no seed. The seed corn was eaten in the autumn, the barley traded for the pot, the wheat sold to pay the tithe. There is nothing left. But you do not say this. You nod, and you take her hand, and you help her up, and you walk back to the cottage through the melting snow. Your father is at the door. He has not moved from the hearth, not really, but he is standing now looking out at the lane, at the fields, at the sky, that is grey but not the grey of winter, the grey of something that is changing. Thomas, your mother says, we must find seed. There must find seed. There must be seed somewhere. Your father does not answer. He looks at her, and you see something pass between them, something that has been there all winter, waiting for this moment. He goes to the chest, the one that has been empty for months, and he kneels beside it, and he opens the lid. Inside, there is a small cloth bag, tied with a leather thong. You have never seen it before. Your father takes it out, and he holds it in his hands, and you see that his hands are shaking. Your grandmother gave me this, he says. Before we were married, she said to keep it for the time when there was nothing left. He opens the bag. Inside, there are seeds. Small, dark, hard. They are not wheat, not barley, not anything that you recognize. They are something else, something that your grandmother saved, something that she knew would be needed. They are beans, your father says. Fava beans. They were planted in the old way, in the fields that are now the marsh. They will grow where nothing else will. Your mother takes the bag. She pours the seeds into her hand, and you see them, a dozen, perhaps 2 dozen, small and dark and hard. They are not much, they are not enough. But they are something. We will plant them, she says. When the ground is ready, we will plant them and they will grow, and we will have food. Your father nods. He closes the chest, and he sits by the hearth, and he watches your mother put the seeds back in the bag, and he says nothing. But you see his face, and you see that the grey stillness is gone. It has been replaced by something else, something that is not hope, not quite, but something that is not despair either. The days pass. The snow melts, and the lane becomes a river of mud, and the fields appear round and empty, waiting. The sun is stronger now, and the cold is less, and the world is waking. You see birds in the lane, the first you have seen in months, small brown things that peck at the mud, looking for something, anything. You hear them in the morning, a thin, tentative song, and you remember the night when you thought you heard a bird singing, and you wonder if it was real, or if it was a dream, or if it was something that your mother hears in the silence of the church. William wakes one morning, and his eyes are clear. He looks at you, and he says your name, and his voice is thin, a whisper, but it is your name, and he knows you, and you take his hand, and you hold it, and you do not cry. Alice, he says, I dreamed of bread. You smile. It is the first time you have smiled in months, and it feels strange on your face, like a muscle that has forgotten what it is for. I know, you say. I dreamed of it too. He sleeps again, but it is not the sleep of before, the sleep that was almost death. It is a real sleep, a healing sleep, and your mother sits beside him, and she watches him breathe, and you see her face, and you know that she is counting the breaths, that she is waiting for the moment when she can stop counting. The ground thaws in the 3rd week of February. Your father goes out to the field, the one that was your family's strip, the one that has not grown anything since the rain. He takes the axe, and he breaks the crust of the earth, and he turns the soil, and you watch him from the door, a small figure against the brown field, working. He is slow, and he is weak, and he stops often to rest, but he works. He works because there is nothing else to do. He works because there is nothing else to do. He works because the seeds are waiting. He works because the seeds are waiting. Your mother comes out with the bag. She kneels beside your father, and she takes the seeds, and she places them in the earth, one by one, in the furrows that he has made. You kneel beside her, and you help her, and your fingers touch the cold earth, and you feel it, the slow, patient pulse of something that has been waiting all winter, something that is waking now, something that is waking now, something that is ready to grow. The seeds are in the ground. You cover them, and you pat the earth, and you sit back, and you look at the field, at the brown earth, at the grey sky, at the small patch of ground that holds the last hope of your family. Now we wait, your mother says. The waiting is different now. It is not the waiting of winter, the waiting for death, the waiting for the end. It is the waiting for something that is beginning. You go to the field every day. You watch for the first green shoots, for the sign that the seeds have taken, for the proof that the earth has not abandoned you. The days are cold still, the nights still freeze, but there is a warmth in the sun, a softness in the air, and you know that the spring is coming, that it is already here, that it has been here all along, waiting for the right moment to show itself. The shoots come in the 1st week of March. You are walking to the field with your mother, and you see them, small and green, pushing through the brown earth. They are thin, and they are fragile, and there are not many of them, but they are there. They are growing. Your mother kneels beside them. She touches them, her fingers light, her breath held. She does not speak. She does not need to. You see her face, and you see the tears that are running down her cheeks, and you know that she is not crying for the beans, for the small green shoots that are pushing through the earth. She is crying for everything, for the rain, and the hunger, and the cold, and the cow, and the widow, and old what, and all the things that have been lost. She is crying because the world has not ended, because the spring has come, because there is something green in the field. Your father comes to see them. He stands at the edge of the field, and he looks at the small green shoots, and you see his face, and you see that it is not the grey stillness anymore. It is something else, something that has been there all along, waiting for this moment. It is the face of a man who has seen the worst, who has survived it, who is still here. We will need to protect them, he says. The birds will come, the rabbits. We will need to watch. Your mother nods. She has already thought of this. She has been planning, waiting for this moment, for the work that comes after the planting. We will build a fence, she says, a small one, just to keep the birds out, and we will take turns watching. It will not be long. They will grow fast now. You help your father build the fence. It is not much, just a few sticks pushed into the earth, some twine that your mother saved from the old netting, a piece of cloth that flutters in the wind to scare the birds. But it is something. It is the first thing you have built in months, the first thing that is not for survival, the first thing that is for the future. William comes out to see the shoots. He is still weak, still thin, but he can walk now, slowly, leaning on your mother's arm. He kneels beside the little fence, and he looks at the green leaves and he smiles. They are small, he says. They will grow, your mother says. They will grow, and we will harvest them, and we will have beans, and then we will have seed for next year, and the year after, and the year after that." William nods. He touches one of the leaves, gently, and you see his face, and you see that he is imagining it, the field full of beans, the harvest, the bread that will come from it, the winter that will not be like this one. The days pass. The shoots grow. They are not fast, not like the stories say, not like the fields of other years when the grain seemed to leap from the earth. But they grow, and you watch them, and you protect them, and you wait. The sun is stronger now, and the rains come, soft and gentle, and you stand in the field, and you let them fall on your face, and you do not flinch. You are not afraid of the rain anymore. The rain is not the enemy. The rain is what the beans need to grow. Your father begins to talk about the other fields, the ones that have lain fallow all winter, the ones that might be planted if there was seed. There is no seed, not yet, but he talks about it, and you listen, and you let yourself imagine it. The village that was empty, filling again, the fields that were brown, turning green, the winter that was so long, ending at last. The beans flower in April. The blossoms are small and white, and they hang from the stems like tiny bells, and you have never seen anything so beautiful. You stand in the field, and you look at them, and you feel something that you have not felt for a year. It is not hope. It is not the thing that your mother hears in the silence. It is something simpler, something that is only for this moment, for this field, for these small white flowers that are opening to the sun. Your mother comes to stand beside you. She does not speak. She takes your hand, and you stand together, and you watch the flowers, and you wait for the beans that will come. The first beans appear in May. They are small and green, and they grow from the stems where the flowers were, and you count them, each one, each small sign that the earth has not abandoned you. There are not many, a few dozen perhaps, but they are there. They are growing. You do not pick them, not yet. You wait, and you watch, and you let them grow, and you imagine the day when you will take them from the stems, and you will cook them, and you will eat, and you will have seed for the next year, and the year after, and the year after that. The summer comes, and the beans are ready. Your mother picks them carefully, one by one, and she lays them on the table, and you count them, and you see that there are more than you thought, more than the seeds that were planted, more than you had hoped. "We will eat some," your mother says, "and we will save the rest for seed, for next year." She cooks them that night. She boils them in the pot, the same pot that was not traded, the one that has cooked the famine bread and the nettle pottage and the last broth from the cow's bones. The smell that rises from it is not the smell of bread, not the smell of anything you've eaten in a year, but it is warm, and it is good, and you feel your stomach clench with something that is not hunger, not anymore. When they are ready, your mother takes them from the pot, and she puts them on the table, and you sit down, and you look at them. They are small, and they are green, and they are not much, but they are food, they are life, they are the beginning. You take one, you put it in your mouth, you chew. It is not sweet, not like the beans of other years, the ones that were grown in the good times. It is tough, and it is earthy, and it tastes of the ground that grew it, of the rain that watered it, of the winter that almost killed it. But it is food, and you are hungry, and you eat. Your father eats, your mother eats, your mother eats. William eats, slowly, carefully, and you see his face, and you see that he is tasting something that he has almost forgotten, something that was lost and is now found. When the meal is over, your mother takes the beans that are left. She puts them in the cloth bag, the one that held the seeds, and she ties it, and she puts it in the chest, and she closes the lid. "For next year," she says. You nod. You look at the chest, at the small bag that holds the hope of your family, at the field outside the window where the beans grew, at the sky that is blue now, clear, the sky of summer. The winter is over. It is not the end of the hunger. Not yet. There will be more months of thin pottage, of famine bread, of waiting. But the beans are in the chest, and the field is waiting, and the spring will come again, and the summer, and the harvest. There will be beans, there will be bread, There will be a time when the hunger is a memory, a story that you tell your children, your grandchildren, the ones who will not know what it was like, the ones who will not understand. But you will know. You will remember. You will remember the rain and the cold and the long dark months when you did not know if you would live. You will remember the wolves and the graves and the bread of branches. You will remember the beans, the small green shoots that pushed through the earth, the first sign that the world was not over, that there was something after the winter. You will remember, and you will be grateful. For the beans, for the spring, for the life that was given back to you, one seed at a time. That night, you lie on your pallet, and you listen to the sounds of the cottage. Your mother is breathing, deep and even. Your father is sleeping, the axe beside him, his hands relaxed. William is beside him, his hands relaxed. William is beside you, his hand in yours, his chest rising and falling, rising and falling. Outside, the summer night is warm and the stars are out, and the world is quiet. There are no wolves tonight. There is no hunger. There is only the dark and the silence and the slow, steady pulse of the earth turning toward the sun. You close your eyes. You let the darkness take you. You sleep. August comes to Thornwood like a promise kept. The beans that were planted in the spring have become a harvest. Not a great harvest, not the kind that fills the chest and overflows onto the table, but a harvest nonetheless. Your mother has been in the field for 3 days, picking the pods, shelling them, laying the beans on the cloth to dry in the sun. There are more than you expected, more than the handful of seeds that your grandmother saved. Enough, perhaps, to see you through the winter. Enough to plant again in the spring. Enough to begin. The village is stirring. It is not the village you remember from before the rain, the one with voices in the lane and smoke from every chimney and children running between the cottages. But it is not the village of winter, the one of silence and graves and doors that never opened. There are people in the fields again, tending the small patches that have been planted with whatever seed could be found. There are voices in the lane, thin and tired, but voices. There is smoke from chimneys, more than there was, and sometimes in the evenings the smell of something cooking that is not nettles or bark. The millers have not come back. The Smiths have not come back. The Carters have not come back. The Carters have not come back. No one knows where they went, or if they are alive, or if they will ever return. Their cottages stand empty, their fields overgrown, their names spoken only in the past tense. But the Jenkins family, who left for the town in the autumn, have returned. They came back in July, thin and hollow-eyed, with nothing but the clothes they wore and a story of a city where the dead lay in the streets and the living fought over scraps. They are planting now, in the field that was theirs before they left, with seed that your mother shared from the bean harvest and a promise that they will repay when they can. Your father has begun to talk about the other fields, the ones that were your family's, the ones that have lain fallow for 2 years. He walks them in the evenings when the heat of the day is past and you walk with him, and he points to the places where the rye used to grow, where the wheat stood tall, where the barley ripened gold in the summer sun. He talks about the ploughing that must be done, the drainage ditches that must be dug, the seed that must be found. He talks about the future, and you listen, and you let yourself believe that there is one. William is walking now. He is still thin, still pale, still prone to the cough that comes when the nights are cold, but he is alive. He follows you to the field in the mornings, and he helps your mother with the beans, his small hands clumsy but eager, and he asks questions, endless questions, about the beans and the field and the winter that is coming. You answer him as best you can, and you watch him, and you marvel at the way he has survived, the way he has held on, the way he is already forgetting the hunger that nearly took him. Your mother has planted a garden behind the cottage. It is not much, a few rows of beans, some onions that she traded for with the Jenkins, a patch of herbs that she grew from the dried roots she saved from the old garden. But it is green, and it is growing, and in the evenings she sits by the door and she watches it, and you see her face, and you know that she is counting the days until the harvest, that she is planning the meals she will make, that she is already thinking about the winter that will come, and the spring after that, and all the seasons that stretch ahead. The church is still in ruins. No one has the strength to rebuild it, and no one is sure if there is anyone left who remembers the words that were spoken there. But sometimes, in the evenings, your mother walks to the old churchyard, and she sits among the graves, and she is silent for a long time. You do not ask her what she does there. You think you know. She is remembering the ones who did not make it. Old Watt, who died in his bed with nothing left of him. Robert the Reeve, who fell in the lane and froze before anyone could reach him. The widow Collins, who went out for wood and met the wolves. The children, the ones whose names you cannot say without crying. The ones who were buried in the shallow graves that the frost heaved open. The ones who were too small to fight. She is remembering them, and she is telling them that she is still here, that the village is still here, that the village is still here, that the beans grew, and the sun came, and the winter ended. She is telling them that they are not forgotten. September comes, and with it the first chill of autumn. The leaves on the trees are beginning to turn, the golden red that you remember from other years, and you find yourself watching them, marveling at the way they change, the way they let go, the way they fall. You have never thought about the leaves before. Not really. They were just there, part of the world, as ordinary as the sky or the lane or the smoke from the chimneys. But this year, you watch them, and you think about what it means to let go, to fall, to become something that nourishes the earth for the spring that will come. The beans are harvested now, the last of them dried and stored in the chest. There is not enough, there is never enough, but there is more than there was. There is seed for the spring and food for the winter, and a hope that is not the desperate hope of the spring, the hope that was a prayer, but a quiet hope, a patient hope, the hope of something that is beginning to grow. Your mother takes the beans one evening, a handful of them, and she puts them in the pot, the old pot that was not traded, and she adds water, and she sets them to cook over the fire that is larger now, fed with wood that your father has been cutting from the edges of the woods that are safe again, or safe enough. The beans cook slowly and the smell fills the cottage, and you sit at the table and you wait. William is beside you, his hands folded, his eyes on the pot. He is quiet, the way he is quiet now, the way he learned to be quiet in the winter, when silence meant survival. But his eyes are bright, and you see his mouth move, just a little, and you know that he is tasting the beans already, that he is imagining the moment when they will be ready, when he will put them in his mouth and taste something that is not bark, not nettles, not the thin gruel that has been his food for so long. Your father sits by the fire, the axe beside him, his hands empty. He is not the man he was before the rain. His face is lined, his hair grey, his body thin and stooped. But he is alive. He is here. And when your mother brings the bowl of beans to the table, he takes it and he eats. And you see his face, and you see that he is tasting something that he had forgotten, something that was lost and is now found. The beans are not like the beans of other years. They are small and they are hard, and they have a taste that is not sweet, not rich, but earthy, the taste of the ground that grew them, of the rain that watered them, of the winter that almost killed them. You eat them slowly, one by one, and you feel them in your stomach, warm and solid, and you think about the year that has passed, the rain that would not stop, the fields that drowned, the hunger that came, slow and patient, and took everything, the cow that was slaughtered, the pot that was traded, the bark that was ground into bread, the wolves that came in the night, and the widow who did not survive. The seeds that were planted in the frozen ground, the shoots that appeared, the beans that grew. You think about your mother kneeling in the empty church, listening to a silence that might have been God or might have been nothing. You think about your father, standing at the door with the axe in his hands, waiting for the wolves. You think about William, lying on his pallet, so thin that you could see his heart beating through his skin, and you think about the night you thought he would not wake. And you think about the bread that was not bread, the bread of branches, the bread that was bitter and tough, and kept you alive when nothing else could. You think about the taste of it, the way it sat in your stomach like a stone, the way you learned to chew it slowly, to make it last, to be grateful for it even when you hated it. You think about the day your father came back with the skirret root, the day your mother cried over the bean shoots, the day William said your name. The meal is finished. Your mother takes the bowls and she puts them by the hearth, and she sits beside you and she takes your hand. Her hand is rough, the skin cracked, the nails broken, but it is warm and it is alive, and you hold it, and you do not let go. Tomorrow, your mother says, we will make bread. You look at her. Bread. The beans, she says. We will grind them. We will mix them with the last of the acorn flour. We will make bread. Real, the bread of the new year. You nod. You do not ask her what she means by new year. You know. The year that began with rain and ended with hunger is over. This is a new year, a year of planting and harvest, a year of rebuilding, a year of hope. It will not be easy. There will be more hunger, more cold, more days when the chest is empty and the fire is low, but there will be beans and there will be bread, and there will be the slow, patient work of putting things back together. That night, you lie on your pallet and you listen to the sounds of the cottage. Your mother is at the hearth, banking the fire, her movements slow and careful. Her movements slow and careful. Your father is by the door, checking the bar, the way he does every night now. The habit that kept you alive when the walls were close. William is beside you, his breathing deep and even. The cough that has haunted him all winter, finally quiet. Outside, the autumn wind moves through the trees, and you hear the leaves falling, the soft rustle of them settling on the ground. The world is dark, and the night is long, and the winter is coming. But you are not afraid. You have been through the winter. You have seen the worst. You know now that there is something after it, something that is not the end, something that is waiting for the spring. You close your eyes. You let the darkness take you. You dream of bread, not the famine bread, the grey, bitter bread of bark and acorns, but real bread, the bread that your mother will make tomorrow, the bread of the new year. You dream of it, round and brown, with a crust that crackles when you break it, with a center that is soft and warm, with a taste that is like nothing you have ever known. And in the morning when you wake, your mother is at the hearth. The fire is burning, the pot is on, and there is flour on the table, bean flour and acorn flour mixed together, waiting. She looks up when you come in, and she smiles, and you see her face, and you see that she is not the woman who knelt in the empty church, listening to silence. She is something else. She is the woman who planted the beans, who watched them grow, who harvested them, who is making bread. Come, she says, help me. You go to the table. You put your hands in the flour, and you feel it, soft and warm, and you begin to mix, to knead, to shape. The dough is rough, and it is not white, not like the bread of before, but it is dough, and it is yours, and you work it with your hands, and you think about the year that has passed, and the year that is coming, and all the years after that. Your mother takes the dough, and she shapes it into a loaf, and she puts it in the embers, and you wait. The cottage is warm, and the fire is bright, and William is awake, sitting at the table, watching, waiting. Your father comes in from the field, his hands empty, his face grey, but he sits, and he waits. The bread bakes. The smell fills the cottage, the smell of something that is not bark, not nettles, not the thin gruel that has been your food for so long. It is the smell of flour, of fire, of something that is almost sweet. You close your eyes, and you breathe it in, and you let it fill you. When the bread is ready, your mother takes it from the embers. It is not a large loaf. It is not the bread of other years, the round brown loaves that came from the common oven. It is small, and it is dark, and it is rough. But it is bread. It is the bread of the new year. She breaks it. She gives a piece to your father, and a piece to you, and a piece to William. And she takes a piece for herself. You hold it in your hands, and you feel its warmth. And you look at your family, gathered at the table, waiting. Eat, your mother says. You put it in your mouth. It is not soft. It is not sweet. It is the bread of famine and survival, the bread of bark and beans, the bread of a year that nearly broke you. But it is bread. It is food. It is life. You chew it slowly. You taste the earth, the rain, the long months of waiting. You taste the winter that was, and the spring that came, and the summer that is ending. You taste the hope that was planted in the frozen ground, that grew, that was harvested, that is here, in your hands, in your mouth, in your stomach. You eat, and you are full, not the full of plenty, not the full of other years, but a full that is enough. Enough for today, enough for tomorrow, enough to begin. When the bread is finished, you sit at the table and you look at your family. Your father, who stood at the door with the axe in his hands. Your mother, who knelt in the empty church and heard something in the silence. William, who was so close to death and came back. And you, who walked the road to the fair, who dug for acorns in the frozen woods, who held your brother's hand when he could not hold anything else. You are alive. You are together. You are here. The night is coming, and the winter is coming, and there will be more hunger, more cold, more days when the chest is empty and the fire is low. But there will also be bread. There will be the bread of the new year, the bread that your mother made from the beans that your grandmother saved, the bread that will see you through. You go to the door. You look out at the village, at the smoke rising from the chimneys, at the fields where the beans are harvested, at the woods that are turning gold and red. The sun is setting, and the sky is the color of fire, and the world is quiet. You think about the story you will tell, someday, to your children, to your grandchildren, to the ones who will come after. You will tell them about the rain, and the hunger, and the wolves. You will tell them about the bread of branches and the seeds that were saved, and the spring that came. You will tell them about the year that nearly broke you, and the way you held on, and the bread that was baked at the beginning of the new year. You will tell them, and they will listen, and they will not understand. They will not understand what it was like to be hungry, truly hungry, to watch the fields drown and the grain rot and the animals die. They will not understand the taste of bark, the silence of the church, the howl of the wolves in the night. They will not understand the way the world can end, slowly, day by day, and still go on. But they will know the story. They will know that you survived. They will know that the bread was baked, and the beans were planted, and the spring came. They will know that there is always something after the winter. There is always bread. You go back inside. Your mother is at the hearth, banking the fire. Your father is at the turf, banking the bar. William is on his pallet, already asleep, his face soft, his breathing deep. You lie down beside him, and you close your eyes, and you listen. The cottage is quiet. The fire is low. The night is dark. But you are not afraid. You have been through the night. You have seen the worst. You know that the morning will come, and the sun will rise, and there will be bread. You let the darkness take you. You sleep.